He scores! What a blast by Boston!
Waiting, Holiday screams, good night!
Oh!
WBZFM and HD Boston 98.5, the Sports Hub. Disney Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
With NFL free agency coming up on Wednesday, the league's legal tampering period will begin at noon Eastern time today, but the Patriots beat the clock last night with a pair of moves. First, they signed former Tennessee pass rusher and Boston College star Harold Landry to a 3-year, $43.5 million contract. And then they re-signed tight end Austin Hooper to a 1-year deal. Defensive back Jonathan Jones will reportedly hit the open market with the option to return. Around the league, things went crazy last night. Buffalo re-signed Josh Allen to a 5-year, $330 million extension. And then Seattle traded wideout DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh for a second-round draft pick. The Steelers then signed Metcalf to a 5-year, $150 million deal. Also, the LA Rams have reportedly signed former Jets receiver Devontae Adams to a 2-year contract. And Cleveland re-signed Myles Garrett to a 4-year, $160 million deal. Fresh from a home win over the Lakers Saturday night, the Celtics play Utah at TD Garden this evening. Brandy and Max have the pregame at 7 and the tip-off at 7:30 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Jason Tatum and Al Horford are questionable. Kristaps Porzingis is doubtful. LeBron James suffered a groin injury against the Celtics on Saturday. He's now expected to miss at least a week or two for the Lakers. And the Red Sox scored a 7-3 exhibition win over Atlanta in Fort Myers yesterday. Today is a scheduled Players' Day off. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Rapid Flow Sewer and Drain Cleaning. Have fans coming into your bar or restaurant for the college tourney? The permanent fix now. Get it so you don't have a sewer backup on game day. 800-286-FLOW or rapidflowinc.com. I'm John Wallach on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 6:30.
New England plays here.
Ball down the right side, that's a separation. Touchdown pass.
Yes.
Perfect dive from Drake May.
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Toucher
When has that been necessary to fact check?
and Hardy
I am not known as Mr. Fun.
on 98.5.
Hey there.
Sarge GPT booting up.
Let me hear you say, boo, boo, boo.
Crush me, mommy.
Say my name.
I'm a robot.
I'm the son of the Pope.
I'm a goddamn dragon.
Yeah, good luck, dude.
Nothing like a good tushy.
I love you, and I think you know that.
Excuse me?
Toucher and Hardy
Watch Daddy and Uncle Freddie.
Knocking back some fans and having some fun.
on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
In the NFL, a lot obviously on Friday going on with the Bruins, so we will be doing a lot of that today. Don't you worry none. Alex Barth is going to be on for a while. Ryan Johnston's going to be on for a while. We're going to explore all of those things. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. A wonderful weekend.
Oh, my God. It was so good. Wallach
So
asked me,
good.
I was like, what did you do this weekend? Like, I'm like 22. I'm like, nothing. I didn't do anything. Don't ask me.
Always cheery to talk to Hardy first thing in the morning.
Well, it's kind of our unwritten policy as John gets here generally a few minutes before I do. I'd say maybe once a week I'm in here before John, but for the most part, John's here and settled in and, pecking away. He's just ding, copy. He's just work,
He's
work,
using
work.
his nose.
And I just come in and settle in. Good morning. And then he starts engaging him in the small talk. How was your weekend? Did you do anything? No. And not only is it 5:15, but it feels earlier. So can we not?
Done.
I'm not a big fan of talking to them right when I get in either.
Right.
Especially like last night, I had a good night, and then I had a problem with one of my kids via the phone, and I was up lecturing until 12:15 at night, which I did not want to do, nor did I care for. And I explained, I am not going to do that again. I am off the clock with that. It's a recurring, very, very ridiculous non-issue that continues to come up, and I have with one of them, which I just have had it with, and no more.
Dishes are going in the sink, but not in the dishwasher. I've had this same issue at my house. A lot of late nights. A lot of back and forth, and then at some point you just got to throw your hands up and say, "Hey, look, this is no argument.
Yeah.
If you can put the dishes in the sink, you can put them in the dishwasher. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean-
and that really should be the end of it."
One of my kids told me that they were leaving school, and I had to. I gave them some cash in their hand, and I explained how much would be rent, and how much would and my kid Theo. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I told you guys that yesterday. We were sitting on the bed, and he said that he was going to leave school and that he was going to get his own apartment. So I handed him a bunch of cash, and then I took it away with rent and everything like that. And I said that this is ridiculous. And we had a lot of fun with that. We smiled.
Yeah, he thought he had he thought he had it beat until he realized that taxes. The government comes after the poor people first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter wanted a TV for her room. She's never had a TV in her room.
That seems entirely unnecessary for kids.
The TV in the room?
Yeah, because they have phones.
Didn't want one until her brother, who did want one, got one for Christmas. And then she saw what a rip-roaring good time he was having sitting in his room with the TV on and then being on their phone anyway, which is what I think everybody pretty much does now. So yesterday she announces, can I put a TV in my room? I'll pay for it. I said, sure. All right.
Yeah.
I'll
You'll do what?
and I'll do all the install, of course.
Yeah, you'll hang it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that goes without saying.
So we went to get it yesterday, same one that her brother got, and they're just I'm still kind of like astounded, and they don't want to hear me just, stand there in wonder and awe at the fact that you can get this TV with all these features for literally like $117. It's like, it's unbelievable to me. But okay, fine. We get it home, and she doesn't want it, sitting on her little, little cubicle thing. She wants it hung on the wall. So this was like a two-pronged exercise. Number one, okay, you want that? Well, you're also going to have to buy a mounting bracket, and you don't mind the cord hanging down. It's only going to be about 8 inches. Fine. We're not going to install new outlets or anything, but we got to buy a little trim piece to hide the cord and all that stuff. So she learned about the additional costs. But then I wanted to teach her how to this is, a good little project, just hanging like a small mounting bracket on the wall for the TV. It didn't go well.
No, I can imagine. I wouldn't want to do that either.
No, not because she didn't want to do it, because I screwed it up.
Oh.
And
Who had that on the bingo card? Wow.
That's
It's brave of you to admit.
well, I think this is my many flaws. This is a big one. I think I can do things, and when I try and get too cavalier about it, that's when it goes poorly. It's like, I don't need to go into the studs on this one side. The bracket's too small anyway. I'll just use some drywall anchors. I'm not good at it, and I'm re-drilling holes. There's drywall flying everywhere in her room and all this stuff. So not only did she not learn how to do it, she looks at me probably as a little less than now. But she got her TV. So.
Yeah, she probably thinks you're a real piece of garbage. I heard, I hear that there's a lot of seniors in high school that date guys, and then when they can't properly hang brackets, they're like, get out of here, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, well.
You're half a man.
Yeah,
I don't have a TV in my room. I don't have no need for it.
Huh.
I have no desire to lay in bed and watch TV.
Okay, I get that, and I don't have the TV on in our bedroom that much anymore. To me, it's almost like comfort food, though.
Oh, I have the TV on, believe me.
But not in your room.
But not in my room.
Yeah, I like it. I like it available in pretty much every room.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
as the
Not
warm,
every room, but the bedroom, yes.
Yeah, just the warm glow and the sound of just something.
The TV's my friend. Believe me.
Yeah.
The TV's always on, no matter what I'm doing. I'm rarely even looking at it, but it has to be on, of course, because it's my friend. But for our generation, the TV was your friend. It needs to be on. But in my bedroom, because I didn't buy one for my bedroom when I moved into this place, and I just have no desire. I have a cable hookup, but I have no desire to no desire whatsoever to put a TV in there. I would never look at it. I never have it on. I don't. If I go in that room, either I'm using the TV's my friend, the iPad's my girlfriend, because
Yeah.
and then or I can read. So I have my girlfriend there, and then and that puts me to sleep a lot. And then if I'm or I could just read. I don't need so much the TV in there. I don't want to lay in bed and watch TV.
I prefer the reading thing works best. If I'm in a book and as long as it's not something that I'm absolutely, completely hypnotized by. 4 pages and I'm ready to go night. That's all I need. That's why it takes me 2 months to finish a book. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I'm only reading at night, and that works best. But if I so much as look at my phone when I'm laying in bed, then I'll be up for way too long.
Yeah, I don't look at my iPad at night. I look at my iPad before I take a nap, which is when I go on my dates with the iPad. Is sometimes before a nap. Mm-hmm. I'll either ASMR that son of a bitch.
I was gonna say you're.
Yeah, I'll ASMR that son of a.
Lest anyone get the wrong idea.
Oh no!
Just
I use pornography as well, but not as much as I use. I'd say like every 3 days. I was telling someone yesterday is that like if I go more than 3 days with nothing, no release in any way, shape, or form, whether it be manual or otherwise, I will start making bad texts. Not bad text like evil text or inappropriate text, but just over the top.
Hey, think something really stupid like, "Hey, just thinking about you."
Yeah, stuff like that.
Oh, don't do it.
Yeah, not that one in particular, but like not that bad, but like like stuff that's
nothing that out of line.
No, nothing that corny, but like enough where I'm like, okay, I'm like pretty horny, and I'm like, I'm not like necessarily like if I'm saying stuff like sexual with someone, I'm very comfortable doing it, but I've never like maybe I've misread something like once, but the with someone I already had a relationship with, but but I'll realize like, wow, like I'm kind of like sweating this a little bit too much. I might need to take care of this manually. It's been too long because I'll have big gaps between times where I get to see someone because of my parenting schedule. So sometimes I'll be like, all right,
sure.
So I think I figured 3 days is about as long as I can go before poor decisions get made. Now, 3 times a day, there was a time in my life where that was the case. And then it was, like every day for a very long time. And then it was, every other day. And now we're about every 3 days. Mm. So I can only, I mean, what are you, John, now? Once a month?
Once a month, yeah. That's all I need. Yeah. Once you go by 70 years old, you kind of get not interested in it at all.
I don't know. My dad still spanks it all the time. And he's 82.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's always talking about it.
Still doing the ASMR videos, huh?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't spend as much time with it because it doesn't work as well anymore.
That's the thing. I used to use that a lot to go to sleep, and now I'm
ASMR?
just kind of that's how I did it. And
so the way John
Bob Ross was awesome.
Well, the way John and I got into it was kind of the same way without even talking about it. Is that YouTube is this infinite supply of garbage. But we thought, both of us at separate occasions, like, wow, like Bob Ross was really, and we didn't know it was ASMR. Like, I think both of us had a similar experience. Like, this is years ago. I believe, I didn't know what ASMR was, and I don't think many people did. It was like when I got my first paddleboard. You had to get them from Hawaii, like no one had them. So this was kind of the same thing. But I remembered Bob Ross. So I was looking up Bob Ross videos, but at the time they weren't on YouTube because his estate was like real careful about not letting anything online.
It's interesting you bring that up because they were on Netflix for a while.
Right.
That's how you could get them.
Right.
And then finally they kind of dumped it all onto YouTube.
So the way I found what ASMR is I looked for Bob Ross, and they didn't have Bob Ross videos, but they had these other videos from people that were kind of doing the same thing. And at the time, it wasn't like smacking and like stuff like that. It was like just soft spoken stuff. And I went, ooh. And then when you first see it, it's like when you first got like a Playboy when you were a kid, you devour it. Like it's working like a charm. You've never seen it before. It's all exciting. And but now it's what 15 years later, so there's not so much
desensitized to all of that. And in a way, it's very disappointing because that used to be an easy trick to drift off to sleep.
And it's random what will get it to happen to me now. Like I can't use guys anymore because it was guys. I could never see their face. But like if a guy, but now it has to be women. But I don't really know what it will be. I got to poke around, and then it's annoying because I don't know which one's going to work, and I got to be in the right mood.
Too labor intensive.
I agree.
To fit the process, you know?
I agree.
The whole idea is just you pop on a video like, oh, this is nice, and you drift off to sleep, and then now that doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore at all.
And I'll tell you what killed me with pornography is the stupid TT Boy interviews. Is that now, like, I can't get into it. Like, it's just the whole time I'm thinking, like, how much this is, like, a miserable existence.
You know.
Yeah, so, like, all... Like I'll be like watching it and then like first of all I'm completely aware of like what it's like on the set now and that it's like not real and that it's like it's all miserable and so like I'll be sitting there and then I'll think like, oh, I bet you this person like has killed themselves or this person like like it's not like like this wasn't so fun.
Thought you had to be a big shot, right?
Yeah. The men.
Kind of like the Yellowstone, Old Faithful.
Yeah. Some of the women have, the Christy Canyons of the world, the Ginger Lynns of the world, they still appreciate the business.
I'm an animal.
I know. But the guys, well, the guys are brain dead. There's some women that were really smart and from bad areas, and they're almost like feminist icons. Like there's some women that got out of it pretty good. The men, no.
Like a bird, migrate. Yeah.
Oh, that Peter North TT Boy interview is two guys that have been hit in the head with shovels.
Look at the bird, remember?
Remember? I mean, TT Boy almost shouldn't have been able to do it because it's like letting a child do it. Like he is the brain.
I watch that anytime it comes on.
Yeah, that's shocking, you two idiots. Oh, wow, you like Scarface? That should be an intelligence test. I liked Scarface too. Once, twice.
Well, I hope you can rekindle your love with ASMR, just so that we can have fun finding them and playing them for you.
Come on. Let's talk about baby. Let's talk about Jade. Purple. Let's talk about all the good things that may be. Let's talk about
You may be glad that you did.
That was his White Album.
That was his Dunkirk.
That was really his. That was like, you play it now,
that was Sgt. Pepper's White Album. That was Appetite. Everything rolled into one.
Yeah, like even when you play that, like his voice, like that little whistle in it, like he's hitting all the notes. But now he's not so good anymore.
He had the fastball working that day, my friend.
Yeah, I know a lot about him.
Painting the corners.
I'll tell you, I know a lot about him. All right, well, look, a ton happened. Usually I'm sarcastic when I'm saying that, but I'm not now.
No.
So, like, a lot happened. Free agency starts at 12:01 today.
Yeah, so
legal tampering period.
We're going to do a lot on Brad Marchand later on in the show. As you said, Ryan Johnston is going to join us. We're going to go more in depth with some of these, but I think for what happened last night, we will focus solely on moves in the NFL last night and over the weekend because there's been a bunch.
Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. Like the quarterback dominoes are starting to fall. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to think a certain team is going to draft Shedeur Sanders. It's not great. We'll be back in just a moment.
Got your finger on the pulse, Fred. Seldom right and never wrong.
Right here. Is that Dutcher or is that Hardy?
I know, looks like a poodle. It's an effing poodle, dumbass.
The Sports Hub.
Did you catch the game last night?
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy. What happened last night is brought to you by Leonard Hair Transplant Associates, where your hair doesn't have to be a game of what happened. So change your lettuce and change your life with Dr. Matthew Lopresti at 1-800-GET-HAIR.
All right, let's start with the Steelers, who have themselves a new wide receiver in DK Metcalf. Now, let's just rewind a few days and hear John Schneider, fresh off his Dukes of Hazzard reunion show, the GM out there in Seattle, talking about DK Metcalf and what they were trying to do.
Obviously, DK has requested a trade. We are entertaining that. We are talking to a ton of teams, taking offers, seeing what that looks like. But worst case scenario, I mean, we have a amazing, explosive, powerful athlete playing receiver for us again in 2025. So we'll see where this goes.
Well, now that amazing, explosive receiver is in Pittsburgh in exchange for a 2025 second-round pick, and Metcalf has agreed to a 5-year, $150 million extension.
Biggest average annual value in Pittsburgh Steelers history.
Yes. Schefter talking about it last night.
The Pittsburgh Steelers were the most aggressive team for DK Metcalf with the Seattle Seahawks and with DK Metcalf contractually. They satisfied Seattle's asking price of a second-round draft pick and a draft pick flip in later rounds, and they satisfied DK Metcalf's price, and now the Steelers finally have the wide receiver that they've been looking for the last couple of years.
And that means the Seahawks have now... well, we'll get to their quarterback, but quarterback over wide receiver out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what they're going to do in Seattle, but the Steelers coming to the table with that second-round pick. John and I were talking about it before. Originally, they wanted a first and a third. Seattle did for Metcalf, which...
That was Diana Rossini on Friday.
Yeah. It was very,
Well,
very
and then
heavy
they
ass.
lowered it to a second, and then the talk was that you could get it for him for a third because you had to give him a big contract. So if I was the Patriots, I'm not giving up the fourth pick in the second round for DK Metcalf.
That's obvious. The Patriots didn't want him. They had a better second round pick. They have more cap room than Pittsburgh did. They could have, if they really wanted DK Metcalf, they could have gotten him. So they didn't. They didn't want him. Move on. I don't know what they're going to do at receiver. Maybe Chris Godwin, but they didn't want Metcalf. That's for sure.
So this one slipped under my radar. There was so much stuff happening on Friday with Brad Marchand and the NFL moves. Geno Smith, if you're like me and either heard about it late or didn't hear about it, to the Las Vegas Raiders. So Tom Brady, who's advising ownership there now and making a lot of these decisions, has decided to do a Seattle reunion there in Las Vegas, bringing in 73-year-old head coach Pete Carroll and now Geno Smith to play quarterback. And what would you guess? What would you guess just right now Raiders going to do in this upcoming season? Give me a record estimate with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith there.
6 wins?
Maybe.
Well, okay.
And with really nothing, building on nothing for the future.
Well, by the way, they're giving him – okay, so here is why they did it, is that they are trying to bring stability to the organization. So Geno Smith goes to the Raiders. Pete Carroll is the coach. Pete Carroll's going to be there for 2 or 3 years. They're bringing Geno Smith to stabilize things. He'll be there for 2 or 3 years. He's 36 years old, and the idea is I think what their strategy is get everything just back to like not chaos where you're firing people all the time and things of that nature. I don't know if I agree with the Carroll thing because it is, he's going to leave and then I don't know what you're going to do when he leaves. I don't know if you have a plan in place, but what they're going to do is they're going to try to just stabilize stuff. Geno Smith for a third pick, I think is good. They're going to give him $100 million, apparently. They're going to give him 3 years, $100 million, like the Baker Mayfield contract. Mm-hmm. You're right. They play 6 games against superior quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. At least 5 of those are losses.
Yeah, they have to play Mahomes, Knicks, and Herbert.
Yeah.
So, like, they're going to lose 5 of those games. So, yeah, they're not going to compete for the playoffs, but I think what the goal is to not be in utter chaos.
And I agree with you. And, like, in the macro, that makes sense. But if you're talking about it for your team locally, and the Raiders do have local fans, or at least they still have all their fans in California,
mm-hmm.
They're not interested in the 3-year stabilize and talk about it like it's a small savings and loan, and we're just going to, build up our resources
mm-hmm.
here and kind of do a thing. No, you have to go out there. You have to put a competitive product on the field. You got to, get people engaged and interested in the team. And to me, Fred, the biggest part of that is what you just said. If you're trying to stabilize the situation, why do you do it with a head coach who, by sheer virtue of his age alone, and a 34-year-old quarterback, aren't going to be there for more than a couple years?
Is he 34 or 36?
36?
I think he's 36.
Jesus, he might be.
Yeah, and so it really just to right the ship and not be in a state of chaos. Like
34. He's
34.
Oh, he's 34. Okay.
Going to be 35 in October.
All right, so he's 35.
But he doesn't impress me as a guy who's going to play for 6 more years.
No, that's what I just said. He's not.
Yeah.
What he's gonna do is that he's probably on the same timeline as Pete Carroll.
Yeah. But
he might start for 3 more years for them, or start for 2 of the 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is there a chance that is part of this, like they'd never say it out loud, but the backroom conversations are, we just got to wait out Mahomes and see what Knicks turns into, and just because we're not touching that for at least 2 to 3 years.
Yes, that has been talk, and that's you. You just said what a lot of people are saying is that we are not going to. Let's be honest, we're not winning this division. So in that time frame, get everything together, put together a program, get everything going. Don't be chucking out Gardner Minshew and Jimmy Garoppolo and a bunch of crap.
You have an actual head coach and an actual quarterback, which is what they haven't had in a while.
Right,
so,
and so
I guess I can see that. Yeah,
if that's what you want to, it makes sense. And by the way, they are going to sign Geno Smith because they would not have given up a 3rd pick if they weren't going to extend him.
That makes sense too.
So. I mean, I almost wish another team did that, but because it makes a lot of sense. But that's why they did that, and I think it's not the worst idea in the world. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say there's a fallout to this because Seattle is now looking for a quarterback, Fred, and you know who they're looking at?
Sam Darnold. But go ahead.
Right, Sammy D is going to get paid by the Seahawks.
What's the problem with that?
There's nothing. Fred and I went back and forth on a possible landing spot for Sam Darnold last week. And this is one of them. This is one that wasn't available when we talked and is available now. It makes a lot of sense because now Seattle desperately needs a quarterback, and Darnold is probably the best one out there they can get.
Oh,
their pick isn't high enough to get anybody of relevance for that position.
Yeah, so the belief is that Seattle is going to want Sam Darnold, and that Sam Darnold is going to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so maybe it was Sam Darnold that was going to get Mayfield's contract and not Geno Smith. Anyway, they're going to extend Geno Smith in Los Angeles. Darnold is believed to go to Seattle, and that's how that's supposed to fall.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 Jets quarterbacks getting deals, ex-Jets quarterbacks getting deals, and that's the way it's going. So that was an interesting move.
All right. They won't be getting Derek Carr, who has agreed to a restructure with New Orleans. So get ready for more of the same down there. And they certainly won't be getting NFL MVP Josh Allen with a record-setting deal with the Buffalo Bills.
I think they're getting out ahead of it, right? You tie Josh Allen down through the year 2030. You give him 2 additional years. And I think by locking him in, you also keep your player that much happy. You have him adjusted to the market, and he's contractually tied to Buffalo for the next 6 years.
What is the market? Apparently 6 years, $330 million.
Okay, so Fred, he's going to make $55 million a year as a quarterback. He is the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, Fred. Who's number one?
The number one highest paid quarterback in the NFL is
AAV.
Well, it's not someone. Is it someone bad?
No.
Not really.
Bad.
No.
It's not Joe Burrow.
No.
Nope.
AAV, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, AAV. All right, give me a second here to review. All right, give me a second to look around here. I am looking at all the teams, and I am trying to find the one that you are referring to. And it is going to be a man by name of... It's no one in the AFC West. It's no one in the NFC West. It's no one in the NFC South.
No.
It's no one in the AFC South. It's no one in the NFC North.
No.
It's so it's not Cincinnati. So it's no one in the AFC North.
I think we need a drum roll for this.
Is it Dak Prescott?
It is. Dak Prescott. Well done. You see what he did there? You know what he did there, Hardy?
He deduced it.
Yes, he did. $60 million a year for Dak Prescott.
Process of elimination.
Yeah.
Process of elimination, my friends.
Yep.
So
You're welcome.
only Prescott has more with an AAV of $60 million, but the largest guaranteed total given to an NFL player, the old mark held by, of course, Deshaun Watson. We got 230 guaranteed. Josh Allen beginning $250 million guaranteed with the Buffalo Bills. They had to do it.
Yeah,
they did it. It's done.
So is that tacked on to his contract now? Because he had 3 years left in his contract, Josh Allen. So did they tear up the old contract and give him this contract?
I got to double check to make sure.
Because I don't know why you would do that. Or is this just tacked on to the end of it?
Let's see.
Because these are the things I don't understand. Because he had 3 years left. Like, I don't know what he was going to do.
Right.
And if you only gave him one more year.
Well, if he's tied, what Schefter said was he's tied down through 2030. That would mean they tore up the old one and gave him 6 years here.
Okay.
25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 6 years.
Huh. Oh, I don't know why they did that.
To give him a salary commensurate with being the NFL MVP and one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
In case he balked and wanted to get traded?
Maybe. I don't know if that's the case, but tearing up what was left of his contract and replacing it with this one.
Yeah, he was signed through 28.
Yeah, so I don't understand why you do that now.
So you don't have to pay him $80 million a year when this previous contract ended?
Yeah, but you have some time.
You got 3 years.
You do. I'm not saying I'm just thinking about this.
That's what we're doing is we're going through why you would do it. I don't quite understand why you would do it. There's got to be a reason.
4 years. He's through 28.
Yeah, there's 4 years left on the deal.
So they tore that up and gave him 6.
Okay. I mean, okay. I guess it makes sense. I don't know, because it's Buffalo. And you got to do everything you can to hang on with both hands.
I think by the time we get to 27 and 28, this contract's going to look cheap.
Oh, of course. Yeah. But you're just giving him more money now. Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, yeah, it's going to look really cheap.
It's going to be
Dude,
easy.
You know how much you're going to have to pay Jamar Chase when that dumbass general manager opened up his mind and said he was going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in football?
This happens a lot. Like, for instance, and we'll get to it, Myles Garrett signs this mammoth contract. How do you think Jerry feels about re-signing Micah Parsons now?
Yeah, but how much? I mean, Jamar Chase is going to end up making.
Yeah. Jamar Chase is going to make $45 million a year.
Yes, he's going to make $45 million
because
a year.
Cincinnati waited. Yes.
Yes.
So this is a first strike by Buffalo.
Did I give the sponsorship out, Adam?
You did, yes.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. All right, let's break.
Yeah,
and
we'll
then
get
there's
to the
more.
Myles Garrett, and we'll get to other receiver news and what the Patriots did.
All right, very good. We'll be right back.
of Todger and Hardy.
That's what I want on my tombstone. More free agency as legal tampering begins at noon today. So what else happened yesterday?
Well, we got a contract extension between the Cleveland Browns and Myles Garrett. This one will average $40 million per year and $123.5 in guaranteed money. So Myles Garrett, the latest non-quarterback to become the highest paid player in NFL history.
It's crazy, too, that he changed his mind because he was very adamant about playing for a winner. And he really wanted to play for a winner and not be with his team anymore.
What changed his mind?
When you're talking about becoming the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, then that is one reason for a player to change his mind. And I know Myles Garrett had said...
Big bag of money.
Yeah.
$40 million a year, $123.5 guaranteed. So Myles Garrett can just wallow in NFL mediocrity with the Cleveland Browns and become a wealthy man in the process.
But look, the salary cap's going up. That's why free agency is going to suck this year, because the salary cap's going up and teams can afford to do these contracts. The league's making so much money. The players deserve it, so good for him.
And the players that are out there, it was said many times last week, the players that are out there are damaged goods. There's a reason why they're available. Chris Godwin is going to be available, by all indications, at noon today. Tampa understands it. Godwin was great for them, but Tampa's more than willing to let him go.
And it's not like Tampa can't afford him.
Yeah.
So they have a relatively inexpensive quarterback. I know Mayfield's not one of the highest paid quarterbacks in football. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mayfield, I believe, has a $100 million contract over I don't know how many years, but he's not making Dak Prescott money. So, I mean, they could afford Godwin if they wanted to, but they're not doing it. So, yeah, everyone that is going to be a free agent that you could get is flawed. There's going to be good corners, but they're not number one corners that want to get paid number one corner money. There's like a reason these guys aren't around. There's like all the players that I'm seeing that I'm familiar with that are going to free agency, I wouldn't pay them what they want to get paid. At least the ones that I'm really familiar with, they're asking for too much money.
Mm-hmm. We skipped over Devontae Adams. I don't think we mentioned his 2-year deal with the Rams. This is a big one. Just wondering where Adams would end up. $8 million base salary for 2025, $16 million in 2026. He's also got a $6 million roster bonus on the third day of the next league year, $12 million signing bonus. Do you have the total number on Devontae Adams, Wallach?
46.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, Devontae Adams is fine. And that's not a bad deal for him. He must have wanted to go to L.A. So that's a good team. That's a team that should have been in the NFC Championship game. And so good for them. They get Devontae Adams. I love their coach, so I figured they can make that work. They kept Stafford. They got Devontae Adams. Mm-hmm. Devontae Adams wasn't going to do anything for you if you're the Patriots, so
it's an upgrade. It's an upgrade from Cup.
Yeah.
So
they're a better team than they were last year, and they were pretty good last year.
So what have the Patriots done so far? Well, bringing Harold Landry back to Boston, former BC star, played with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. 3-year, $43.5 million deal, $26 million guaranteed. So linebacker Harold Landry. First big piece to be acquired by the Patriots.
You look at his numbers, and you're like, oh, okay. 12 sacks in 21, didn't play, missed 22, but 10.5 in 23, 9 sacks in 24. You're like, all right, this is a guy who can do some damage. And then the human wet blanket, Andrew Callahan tweets out, Landry just won 4.8% of his pass rushing reps last season per Pro Football Focus. So I don't know.
Is that low?
Apparently it's really low. So all those sacks he had in the last.
What do you want him to get? 100%?
Apparently not. Apparently none of that's worth it.
I don't know anything about him.
I don't know anything. I didn't watch him when he played at BC. I didn't watch him when he played at Tennessee.
Well,
Vrabel likes him, and they want to. They want to. What do they say? They want to. They want to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They just want to. They want to blitz They just send the house.
Landry's 29 years old. It's a good signing. It's better than what they had before. Well, then again, just about any person they sign will be better than what they had before. But still.
Yeah, they're in a place where they have so much cap money and good. Sign whoever you want, I guess. Like, it's fine.
Just sign a bunch of offensive linemen. That's all I care about.
Okay, so other than the linemen,
who are you going to sign?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Let's just take it as a given for the sake of argument. Okay, let's say they are able to get some guys on the offensive line. Is this the plan for the Patriots? Shore up the offensive line and then just spend on defense, and we'll worry about receivers.
Yes, I think
next
all
year.
things considered, if you get Godwin, great. But if you don't, just make sure your offensive and defensive lines are miles better than what they were last year.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we were led to believe by guys like Callahan and Mike Reese and Karen Garigi. They all seem to think that is going to be the focus, considering who the head coach is.
Yeah, and that seems. I mean, it's very, very early, but so far that's the one move from the Patriots.
So who is available offensive line wise now?
Dan Moore was brought up. He's a tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He seems to be the guy that people are focusing.
Cam Robinson is the 11th ranked.
He's the other guy.
Free agent. He is 29. And then you have Will Freeze, who's a guard, who's 27. Who did you mention?
Dan Moore, Pittsburgh. He's 26.
Okay, so Dan Moore, I will just tell you where ESPN has him out of the remaining free agents.
I'm sure he's low. I'm sure he's not high.
I'm scrolling here, and I'm not getting to him. I'm getting to centers. I'm getting to Mekhi Becton.
Yeah.
I'm getting to some guys who are not great. I am to 30. This does not speak. I'm to James Daniels. It's 33. He's a guard from Pittsburgh.
Moore's a tackle, Pittsburgh.
All right. Dan Moore is the 35th ranked remaining free agent.
Hey, these are the options because Ronnie Stanley re-signed with Baltimore over the weekend.
You want to hear about Moore?
Sure.
Moore's 92.5 pass block win rate ranked 11th among tackles last season.
There you go.
He allowed 13 sacks, however, which tied for 7th most in the league. He struggled late in the season. Technique issues popped up on the tape. I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, when I broke down the tape, I felt the same way. At a premium position with 66 starts over 4 NFL seasons, he will have a market, though. Sure, sign Dan Moore. Why not?
Better than what you have.
Oh, it's certainly better than what you have.
Where's Vidarian Lowe on that list? I don't even know if he's a free agent. That's how little I care about that guy.
Vidarian Lowe?
Mm-hmm. Is he signed for next year?
I don't know, John. You're asking. you're popping up some
stuff. You know something? That's almost insulting to Fred. That you would think he would know that. How dare you?
Well, I'm already to Rico Dowdle, the running back from Dallas, who's 51st.
He is re-signed. He has one more year left on his contract.
That's why I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's why, because I've been keeping an eye on these things.
Yep.
So not a lot left. The going nuts in free agency is not a lot left. Not a lot left.
So I think this will be much different than a few years ago where it was just like spend money everywhere. I think they will spend money on certain places and then kind of back off.
Yeah, and the thing about this is that, look, this is just going to keep you upright. Like none of these free agent signings are going to make
it's like
it.
the Raiders. Some stability. You bring in guys. You get incrementally better. You hope you draft well because you have that extra third-round pick, and maybe you hit on. You have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. Maybe you hit on a couple of them, and then incrementally you get better.
Right. And just real quick, just to repeat very quickly, DK Metcalf went to the Steelers. They paid him a ton of money, and they gave up a second. You should not have done that. That was one to sit out. Don't give up the 4th pick in the 2nd round. Thank you very much. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Guys, generally here to talk about
front and center today with the beginning of the legal tampering period at noon Eastern time. The Patriots took care of some business yesterday, signing former Tennessee and Boston College edge rusher Harold Landry to a 3-year, $43.5 million contract. They've also signed tight end Austin Hooper to a 1-year deal. Defensive back Jonathan Jones reportedly is going to hit free agency, however. There were a lot of deals done yesterday and last night. Buffalo re-signed Josh Allen to a 5-year, $330 million contract, and Seattle traded wideout DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh for a second-round pick, and then the Steelers signed Metcalf to a 5-year, $150 million deal. The LA Rams had signed Devontae Adams to a 2-year contract, and Cleveland has re-signed the former NFL Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett to a 4-year, $160 million deal. Jason Tatum and Al Horford are questionable, and Kristaps Porzingis is doubtful for the Celtics tonight. They'll play Utah at TD Garden. Brandy and Max have the pregame at 7, the tip-off at 7:30 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. LeBron James suffered a groin injury against the Celtics a couple of nights ago. He's expected to miss at least a week or two, and the Red Sox beat Atlanta in Fort Myers yesterday 7-3. Today is a scheduled day off. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by the 99 Restaurants. Celebrate St. Patrick's Day this Sunday and Monday at the Nines. Enjoy the traditional corned beef and cabbage dinner with Lucky Horseshoe Ale. You gotta love the Nines. I'm John Wallach on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 7:30.
Boston plays here.
Coming through the slot. Close shot. Save. Rebound. Score.
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Is elongating.
Weekday morning.
Here goes Hardy.
Toucher and Hardy.
I no longer love things.
Let's go. Let's ride.
98.5.
Let's roll the dice.
The Sports Hub.
You know, I lost personally 3 really close friends, and it's a very tough pill to swallow. And not only we lost big leaders in this team, but great human beings, guys with the families that I was really close to, and been here since day one with them. So yeah, it was a really tough day yesterday.
We are Toucher and Hardy, and it was an exciting day on Friday as the Boston Bruins turned the page on 2011, which sounds odd to say because that was 14 years ago, but they did turn the page on 2011. They conceded that they were not going to do anything. By the way, we're brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Watch us on YouTube, search 98.5 The Sports Hub like my mom does, and subscribe to that channel. All right, so here's the deal, is that Don Sweeney and Cam Neely obviously know that they're coming back, which I suppose, even though that might not be the greatest thing, is the right thing because it ensured that this was going to happen and that they were going to be able to do what needed to be done and tear this roster down instead of trying to patch things up and, half-ass things of that nature. And I do want to talk about some of the things that were done. You knew that they had sent Trent Frederick off, and you knew that they so you saw that. And you got a good return for Trent Frederick, and that was on March 4th. And then they, traded Brazeau, and then you saw that with an expiring contract and whatever with that. And then things got interesting. They traded Charlie Coyle in a 5th-round pick. They got a 2nd-round pick and a couple players back for that. They traded Brad Marchand, and we'll get to that in a second. They traded Brandon Carlo. They got a 1st and a 4th and a player. And then there was a lot of talk of Brad Marchand because we thought after the Frederick trade and everything that Brad Marchand would get a big return, like at least a 1st-round return. But the more I've heard about it, the more I see what's going on. Brad Marchand, they offered him 2 years, and he didn't like that, so they offered him 3 years, but he didn't like the AAV, and they weren't going to move on that, which they shouldn't have. And then they had difficulty because Brad had a pretty big no-trade clause with a lot of teams on it, and also they wanted to do right by him, and also he's hurt, and he could be gone a month.
That was the biggest takeaway I got because I thought they'd get a first-round pick, and only getting a conditional second means he's going to be out a while.
When Sweeney was asked, like, how much time does he give him, says, probably a month. So forget about this week-to-week nonsense.
Yeah.
Forget about him playing here, what is it, Tuesday night? Or whatever. When they
wouldn't have traded him to Florida and then have him come back here and play them 3 days later. They knew he wasn't going to be available.
Maybe playoffs for Florida, I think, is what that would be a reasonable expectation when Marchand plays.
Yeah.
Which is why the conditions are set for playoff.
Right. And so it's a 2027 second-round pick or a 2028 first-round pick, and it's got to be based on how much he plays this season. I don't think he's going to be back by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think Marchand's going to be back here.
This was not a pretty divorce. It sounded bad when he left, and it sounded, the statement I got out of Charlie Jacobs over the weekend, he's like, we wish Brad well. It sounded like this was final. There's no coming back from this.
Well, I don't know why you'd bring him back at this point.
Well, that was the narrative leading into it.
No, I know.
No,
we had the narrative that you could re-sign him, and then you thought about it, but then I'm like, why would you? You've moved on. Why would you do that? Now, you're going to have an assload of cap room now because of expiring contracts and what you've done. You're going to have a ton of picks, and the idea is, I guess, to turn this around fairly quickly. And they're not going to use all those picks. They're going to trade some of those picks. I mean, they will. But you would think for younger talent.
You got a first-round pick for Carlo, and the center they got, I was doing some reading. Apparently, he was the second highest prospect in Toronto's system. Toronto's system is 27th in the league, but this center is apparently can be a high third-line center, maybe a bottom second-line center. That's his ceiling.
Okay.
What I read.
All right.
I have no knowledge. The only knowledge I have is like everybody else. I don't know anything about this kid.
Yeah, and it should be interesting to see how Sweeney and Neely orchestrate this turnaround, because it doesn't have to be a wholesale one. It just has to, you just have to hit on some picks or maneuver picks for young talent, and jettison picks for young talent, and we'll see how that all works out. We'll see, because I trust Sweeney to sometimes to find existing NHL talent and acquire them. That he has done. He's also screwed up Elias Lindholm and the like. And I don't think Swayman's contract was the greatest thing ever in the world to do either, considering both goaltenders are about the same. And Korpisalo was considered you were taking him as a favor as part of a deal.
Now he's got to play the rest of the season without his top three defensemen. So
yeah, but you have again Lindholm and McAvoy and Pasternak, and you have some pieces, and so you're thinking that maybe this can be like a relatively quick turnaround. You would think. I don't know if losing Carlo and Marchand and Coyle that devastates your franchise, and that now there's no hope of ever coming back. It's funny, like losing Marchand was very effective for them, but he was very effective on a team that can't score. If you move his contract and you're not, roped into his contract, and again, Brad gets hurt a lot. He has a lot of he's very tough. I'm not saying that, but he has a lot of surgeries. He had 3 in the offseason last year. He's hurt now. He is 36 years old. What's his future like? If you sign him to a 3-year deal, what are the next 3 years like?
Well, we were talking about this last week. What's the furthest that you would go out for Brad Marchand? 2. All of us said 2.
And I'm not crazy about 2. I would love it if he would, at this point, get into that whole year-to-year thing and just see how it goes. But the fact that Marchand and the Bruins had a, kind of like a messy split and they weren't able to come to terms, I think that bodes well. And again, this is personally, it doesn't matter for the hockey team. It doesn't matter, for your rooting interest and whether they're going to win going forward. But if you're wondering, what does this do for Marchand's legacy in Boston? Nothing. It doesn't.
Paul Pierce got traded. I mean, come on.
It doesn't affect it at all.
What I was surprised by, go ahead. Would you have something else?
Oh no, I mean if he wants to make like a semi career out of being a former Boston Bruin, he can still do that. It's not messy on his point. He didn't want out. He didn't want to leave. They just decided this team's going nowhere, and our most valuable options here are Coyle, Marchand, Carlo. Let's deal them all. Let's start doing something so that we have something to work with going forward for the next year or two. But in terms of like Marchand and how he's leaving town, no, he can come back whenever he wants. Not necessarily to play, but if he wants to be, thought of as a lifelong Bruin, he still will be.
Yeah.
It's funny because I guess a lot of people were upset that they traded him, a lot of Bruins fans, and I don't really understand why. I understand that you liked him and that he was fun to watch, but I don't get why you think that this wasn't good for the team.
I think, Fred, honestly, he's one of the few fun things to watch still on this team.
Yeah, but that's such a such a pom-pom, not so what? So if you have tickets for a couple games for the rest of the season, you wanted to see Brad Marchand?
Do you think the majority of people watching the Bruins are Johnny Hockey and they want to watch good breakouts from their own zone?
Why
No,
would
they want to see Pastrnak score a goal. They want to see Marchand doing Marchand things. And if you get one of those a game and you end up losing 3 out of 5, that's fine. That's they're for the most part they're going to be satisfied.
Well, I would take it if you were taking the time to take to Twitter to yell at radio hosts or calling into radio stations that you care a little bit more than just you have tickets to a game. What is this? Why is it necessary that Brad Marchand retire a Bruin? Why is that at all necessary? What is the deal? Tom Brady left. Ray Bork left. Bobby Orr left.
Yeah.
Why is this necessity that he stays with the team? How is it not obvious to you that this team, dude, they hung on to this team for an insane amount of time. They gripped on to that 2011 team and didn't let go. They tried to bring Lucic back. And then he screwed up, but they tried to bring Lucic. They brought Krejci back. All this stuff. Bergeron was retiring a Bruin, which he had to. That was different. He had to.
Well, we said it. No, all kidding aside, Brad Marchand.
Who's to say you're without sentimentality?
Yeah. No, Bergeron had to stay.
Yeah. Brad Marchand isn't Patrice Bergeron. He's not
he's
Ray
not.
Bork. He's not either of those two guys. And as we just said, Bork left under similar circumstances, by the way. The Bruins weren't going anywhere, and they sent Bork off to chase a cup.
Oh, I thought you said to chase his penis. So the Coyle's 33.
Yeah.
Carlo is just. I don't think Carlo is a specific Carlo's a top 4 defensive defenseman. If you can't find another one of him, shame on you.
As we said last week, does losing Carlo cripple this organization?
No.
Charlie Coyle is a third-line center. And you know what they got in return? A Charlie Coyle who's 7 years younger in Casey Middlestat. I mean, that's Middlestat is making similar dollars, scoring similar goals.
Coyle was making over $5 million a year. I just don't understand how you could be a Bruins fan and have any problem with this. They weren't doing anything. They weren't going. This team was in no position to win a cup. Now, I can understand the concern about Sweeney and Neely orchestrating this rebuild on the fly because it's not a teardown in a rebuild. You got rid of some older, expensive pieces to now get an identity of the team. By the way, they can sign veterans. This isn't like the Patriots where they're building from the ground up. The Bruins can go out and be active in free agency and not screw the team. The Bruins can even trade a couple picks, not a ton of first-round picks, but the Bruins can trade a pick or two to acquire younger talent and build that way. They're not hamstrung. This doesn't need to be a 5-year rebuild. It might have to be a 2-year rebuild, but they should be competitive next year. There's no way losing Marchand, Coyle, and Carlo and Brazo makes it so you can't be competitive next year if you stay relatively healthy. I don't believe that for a second. Look,
no,
I don't think
especially when you compare it to this season's compete level. No, I mean you can certainly do what you did this year, and you can be better.
Yeah, you're gonna have a new coach, your third one in 2 years. Hopefully, you get a good one. Maz, you know who Maz wants? Tortorella.
No, he doesn't.
He absolutely said, "I think we need a ball breaker like Tortorella."
Jesus Christ. Tony Hockey.
I disagree with Tony Maz on that one.
I will say this.
He was making a good point.
If
He
he
was
ever
like,
got
I think that we need a ball breaker, which I understand. And Tortorella was the name that came into his head. I
If
just
he
thought it was
came
funny.
here-
I'm like, don't get John Tortorella.
No, but if he came here, it'd be fun for us for a little while anyway.
I don't know. He's so antagonistic and such a dick. Like I don't
He
even
really is.
like. I don't even think it would be fun. It would just be annoying.
Mm.
Like that whole act.
It's only fun when if a coach is being a dick and they don't quite know it, and that's really their. But he's going out of his way to be like that.
Yeah, he's
So-
a real problem.
Yeah, that's no.
Yeah, like it's too much.
It's like that's what he wants. He wants people to be calling him. Well, I'm not going to give you what you want. You're going to be a dick, and that's what you want. No, I'll ignore you.
And apparently he's been a dick his whole life. He was a dick in high school. Like we've heard from people, like he's just a dick.
What was that caption under his? Who's Muskie?
Yeah,
Something like
who's
that.
Muskie?
Who's
and then
Muskie?
And then we had people calling in and like emailing us that went to high school with him. They're like, "Oh yeah, he's a huge dick. He was a dick back then too." Like guys who played hockey with him, they're like, "Oh yeah, he's a real piece of crap." You're like, all right, well maybe I don't need him around. So look, good for Sweeney and Neely, and I guess. Good for the Jacobs because the only way this was going to get done is to give Neely and Sweeney some assurances that they were able to do this and keep their jobs. It was needed to be done.
The one thing just real quickly
Yeah,
that I will give Sweeney credit for, not for getting the team in this position in the first place, because none of us wanted Brad Marchand traded. We just saw it as something that, something the team kind of needs to do at this point, based on the position they're in, and I'll give Sweeney credit for taking ownership of that.
I want to wish each and every one of them well. They're going to teams that we're jealous of. We've been in the same situation with those teams that they're loading up. And had we done our jobs, if I had done my job appropriately starting there, we would be adding like we have in 10 previous years.
Okay, well, you don't need to sell me on how you've been adding in the past. Just focus in on that one part. Had I done my job, this wouldn't have been necessary. Leave it at that.
All right. Well, look, Alex Barth has been covering the Patriots in the offseason. As free agency starts at noon today, some dominoes have already fallen. The Patriots have made a free agency signing. DK Metcalf has been moved. Geno Smith has been moved. We will talk about all that with Alex Barth in just a moment.
Toucher and Hardy, 98.
21 when they came out of the gates, and you guys.
All things sports for 98.5 thesportshub.com. He's been doing a lot of videos. He's got some draft previews up where he's going player to player. He's giving his thoughts on them, giving some highlights, and he was at the combine and all these things. Alex, hello, sir.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for joining us. First of all, DK Metcalf going to the Steelers. They give up a second-round pick. They're paying him a lot of money. Does that disappoint you that he's not a New England Patriot?
Yeah, a little bit. They've been chasing this, top of the depth chart, coverage dictating wide receiver for a few years now. You can go back to that pursuit of DeAndre Hopkins in the summer of 2023, and whether it was him, Ridley, Brandon Ayuk, this felt like the timing felt as good as it has for them to make such a move, and the opportunity felt like it was their second-round pick. Theirs was better than the Steelers. They have more cap space than any team in the league. Did he get maybe a little more money than he's worth? Sure, but we've talked about this a lot. If the Patriots want to bring in players, they're probably going to have to overpay. I thought Metcalf stylistically is a great fit with Drake May. I thought that would have made a lot of sense. I'm a little disappointed the Patriots weren't in on that. Now, maybe Metcalf was determined to, go back and play with Russell Wilson again, assuming he re-signs in Pittsburgh. That's something obviously the Patriots couldn't match, but short of that.
I don't think so. I think the Steelers gave a second-round pick. You would have given the fourth pick in the second round for DK Metcalf?
Yeah. I don't think you're drafting a player better than Metcalf there. Like, you're not getting more out of that pick in my mind, especially if it's just that pick.
And you're okay with spending the money required in order to retain his services?
Yeah, for where they're at, cap-wise right now, they would still have a ton of flexibility to do a lot of what they need to do moving forward.
Okay, so you don't I'm not arguing with you. You just don't value that second pick and the control you get more than you do bringing in the improvement that DK Metcalf would give to this team over the time that he's here.
In this specific draft where they're at right now, I would have moved that pick, yeah.
Okay, so is this running counter because there must be some reason why they're not following your logic here, Barth? I mean, obviously, you had the answer. Does it run counter to what they're trying to do, which is what we were talking about earlier, work on the offensive line and everything else will be on the defensive side of the ball? Or I'm not saying they're going to ignore the receiver position, but seems like so far that might be their plan of attack.
I think it's some of that. I also think, to your guys' point, and I apologize, I forget which report it was coming out of the combine, but they had talked about how the Patriots viewed, Chris Godwin as somebody they could go after because unlike Metcalf or unlike T. Higgins, you don't have to part with the draft capital. You're only parting with the money, and you still keep those draft picks in that control. So I wonder if they really like Godwin and they look at it and they say, the gap between the two is not worth, and Godwin's still going to probably get a lot of money on the open market. He's the best receiver available. I don't think he's going to get 33, but it's going to be well north of 20, I would expect. Do they look at it and say, for the gap between the players, it's not worth giving up that second round pick?
Okay, I see the logic there. I guess I understand it. I wonder what they're thinking about in terms, and this is something I go back and think about when it comes to the quarterbacks who have been here before Drake, whether it was Mac Jones and certainly with Cam Newton. I wonder what their expectations are in terms of his development, what he's going to be able to utilize in terms of offensive weapons. We know that probably don't have enough right now in order to compete, but do you think the team is hesitant to spend a lot of resources right now on surrounding Drake May with weapons if they're not sure what he's going to be able to do with them?
That could certainly, you're saying like it's only 1 year and, they need to see more before they really push the chips in the middle of the table.
Not even necessarily for him and his talent, but maybe they don't know what would be best suited for him right now. If they're going to expend the resources, whether it's a draft pick for Metcalf and the money that's going to be required afterward, but they need to know specifically what Drake May is best going to be able to work with, and maybe they don't know that yet.
Sure, that could be part of it. I think historically the quarterbacks that play sort of Drake May style work well with those downfield, 50-50 ball receivers. So there might be a tie there. But yeah, if they're saying, well, we don't know, we may want to prioritize route running. We may want to prioritize, yards after the catch, whatever it may be. Yeah, if they're still not sure what they want to prioritize at the position, if they don't know what they want to prioritize at the position, then yeah, you wouldn't make that massive move yet because you don't want to invest in a guy you're not sure if you're going to want him.
What this comes down to for me, Alex, is it's plain to see the Patriots are all in on offensive and defensive line depth. This is not going to be a sexy day for the Patriots coming up.
Yeah, and ultimately I'm okay with that. I had said, honestly, before Ronnie Stanley signed, I had said as into the idea as I am of them adding DK Metcalf, Ronnie Stanley's the guy, and he's not available, but that philosophy still holds. They're not going to be able to do everything they need to do this offseason. There's too much. Even with all the assets they have, they can do a lot, but they're not going to be able to do everything. And if they were to say it's a weak year for wide receivers, we're going to hammer the trenches and build from the inside out, and then next year, in a better wide receiver year, then we'll check that box. Like that, that strategy works to me. Like that makes a lot of sense. You still need to do something at receiver, maybe a guy like a Darius Slayton, right? Or, picking somebody later on day 2 in the draft. But if they are just going to go in and fix the trenches and work on the rest next year, I could see that line of thinking.
So speaking of defensive line, a small trade for the Patriots this morning. Devon Godchaux goes to New Orleans for a 7th-round draft pick next year. It's not even this year. You remember they offered him the chance to go out and find something. This is apparently what they found.
No, so that's well, I can't believe they gave up that 7th-round pick next year.
I know.
Well, that's no good. All right, so look, do you think that the cap raising this offseason, the way it did, kind of screwed the Patriots a little bit?
I don't think a ton, maybe on the margins, but if any player with even a decent agent is just going to ask for a certain percentage more money.
Well, no. What I mean is that teams are able to retain the players that they want easily. Like, because if you look at who's available in free agency now, it's not great.
Right.
I mean, say you wanted to build through the trenches, you're look, you're so terrible that obviously anything you do is going to help. But in your opinion, is there anything that stands out to you as being like a real difference maker in the trenches?
In the trenches, I mean, some of the guys that got cut, maybe Bosa's still out there. He isn't signed. And that's a shot in the dark because he's been banged up, but like he can be. On the cap thing, I think this wasn't, even the few guys that have resigned, this wasn't projected to be a strong free agent class. It never was before the cap went up. I think what we're seeing is a product of weak free agency class, weak draft. Teams know if they move on from players, they're not getting replacements. And I think that is ultimately the driving force behind all these re-signings is there's simply nobody out there. If you're trying to kind of reset your roster, the Seahawks doing this right now is kind of wild because it's probably the worst offseason you could have to start a rebuild. So I think that's sort of what's driving it because, there's some guys that'll be, they'll help you out, but game-changing players, impact players. The one really on the market right now to me is Javon Holland, the safety, who I actually wouldn't hate the Patriots signing because he's a deep safety. He's not a box safety like the rest of the guys they have. After him, though, there's guys that'll help. There's guys that can be starters, but they're not going to make like that massive difference.
Would you assign Godwin?
At this point, probably. The medical stuff worries me. He's coming off the dislocated ankle, only a couple years removed from an ACL. So you hope it's not another case where they sign a free agent off an injury and he's just not the same player. But if he's right, he's a great fit for what Josh McDaniels wants to do. I think he's a good fit with Drake May. I would sign him, not for the long term, but I would sign him.
How excited should I be for Harold Landry? On a scale of 1 to Kyle Van Noy. Just.
I mean, he's a good signing. They needed to address the pass rush. He will help with that. He's familiar in the system. I think he's more of a known commodity in that you already know what the role is for him in the defense. You're going to be able to just kind of plug him in and let him go. They need more in the pass rush. To me, he's more of a secondary rusher at this point in his career. but he's a solid player. He's a good player. So I went to Kyle Van Noy, Anthony Jennings.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Ringing endorsement.
Okay, so how based on what's going to happen in free agency, and we'll get if we could keep you on after the break and talk about the draft. Based on what's available in free agency, how much better are the Patriots next year? Say they sign 2 offensive linemen and another defensive lineman, and they get the safety that you want. How much better are they next year?
Factoring in May's growth and Mike Vrabel and all that, I mean, they can. The tackle spot is what holds me up. I still don't think that there's anything definitive at tackle. Like if they can get average level tackle play, they with their weak schedule can probably get to maybe around 500. But if they're gonna have like marked improvement, it's gonna have to come through the draft.
Right, and we'll get to that. But yeah, so 500. That's pretty. I mean, that means that you're in the conversation in November.
8 and 9, and in the middle, end of November, we'll be talking about paths to the playoffs.
So
are we talking about like,
fun of
like the ideal free agency?
Yeah,
like if they get a real left tackle, Godwin's healthy, Milton Williams is the same player he was in Philly, like all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But Alex, I would look at it as a big victory because the way I look at it is that in the beginning of December, if you're like in the conversation for making the playoffs, that's a big victory. Like if you're playing. Meaningful in quotations, but you're playing games where there's an interest. If you win, there's still a chance of making the playoffs in December. I think that that's a victory for the Patriots next season, based on how the last couple seasons have gone, which have been dreadful, and there was nothing to look at. I mean, 2 years ago, that might be the most boring season of football I've ever seen. Like, no hyperbole. Like, that team might have been the most boring team. That last Belichick team might have been the most boring team I've ever seen. So now you got May. If you're talking about playing games in December, early December, where you're in the hunt, like you're still, around game or two out of the wild card, I think that's a huge victory for this team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, they were at 4 wins last year. I think Vrabel as a coach adds a win or two. You had another win or two off the free agency class, and that's kind of how I get to like 6 or 7, maybe 8. It would be they're not going to go 0 to 100. Like it's so hard to do that in the NFL, right? So just making that step towards you put it great there. Just play meaningful, relevant football in December. That'd be a great first step for where they're at.
Yeah. So the notion that this is like going to be the Commanders of last year and they're going to go on some kind of run, it seems unlikely to you.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to really hit it out of the park in both the draft and free agency to get there.
And unfortunately, it's a bad free agent class and a bad draft. But look, maybe there's value later in the draft. We'll find out because Alex Barth is going to continue with us, and we will continue talking to him in just a moment.
More music in the morning.
Never had to knock on wood, but I never had it yet.
Oh, you said you didn't want to hear more music in the morning. Okay. Here's more Toucher and Hardy on the sports.
Look, the draft is coming up. What have you heard? Is Cam Ward's going number one? Is that your opinion?
I'm still not totally sold on that.
Ooh, okay.
Just and I know I'm going back here, and we've gotten a lot since, but I go back to the Titans GM coming out at the very beginning of the offseason and saying, like, we won't pass on a generational talent. And I don't know that Abdul Carter is necessarily generational talent. Travis Hunter is, because of sort of the uniqueness of who he is as a prospect, but those guys are so clearly above and beyond in this class, even when you factor in the value of the quarterback position. So I still think the Titans can do anything. And this week will tell us a lot. Let's see if they get a veteran quarterback or not. But, could they take Cam Ward? Yeah. I don't think anything would surprise me at this point.
Okay, so if just say Cam Ward, say Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter off the board at 4.
Yeah.
Is there a player that you feel could be a blue chip player? Because there is a player that some people think that there's a third that could be in the mix that maybe you take a chance at 4. Do you have that thought?
I think there's some potential blue chip players, like not at premium positions. Will Campbell at guard, Ashton Genty at running back. I don't know if you're asking about Armand Membu.
I'm talking about Jalen Walker. Like, a lot of people think Jalen Walker, that he's a little undersized, but with his freakish athleticism, you take him and, it's basically a lottery ticket. If this kid hits, he could be a blue chip prospect. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think both Georgia guys, him and Mykel Williams, kind of fit that, where they're a little more raw. Walker, the other thing with his size, he only has 1 year of full-time starting experience. He was a rotational player before that, but they both have immense upside. And Walker in particular is unique to the Patriots for me. And I wrote about this on 98.5thesportshub.com. He's the fact that he can do so many different things. He can play off the ball, stop the run, cover, rush the passer, all that. He's not somebody you're necessarily going to draft and plug into a role that already exists in your defense. If that role exists in your defense, you have a really good linebacker that's doing that stuff, like a Fred Warner. So you're going to have to create a role for him. For a team like the Patriots that's kind of building its defense up from scratch, that's the exact kind of player you're looking for, because you're going to be able to build everything truly around him. So he is somebody I would say the Patriots should be a little higher on than the average, because I think he fits really well what they're trying to do right now.
All right. Any thoughts about the Patriots moving out of that pick? Do you envision a scenario where, because there's so much up in the air, and this is the thing, Barth, for a draft that doesn't have a clear cut 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Everything's in play. So is there I guess any real conversation about the Pats not actually selecting at 4?
Everything's in play is a great way to put it. I think a trade down would be great. The only problem is it's a limited draft, right? Who's moving up? What player team's moving up for? Are you going to get the return that you feel like is worth it to move back? I think, there's a group of players that are going to go, assuming Hunter and Carter off the board, 4 to 12, that all kind of grade out similarly. And it's sort of just, what do you want, position-wise, age-wise, athleticism-wise. So moving down would be a great opportunity if it's there. I think what the Patriots are probably hoping for is one of those quarterbacks gets to 4 and a team a little further down gets the itch and decides they need to move up and take them, especially jumping, where the Jets are at 7, because it looks like the Raiders have their quarterback. We know the Jags do. So that's the best case scenario. But again, what are you really going to get what it's worth, or close to what it's worth, in a draft where there's not a ton of incentive to move up, because it's probably not that one player teams are chasing.
Well, suppose it is a player that some team falls in love with at 4. Oh, we have to get this guy. What's the farthest you think the Patriots can afford to drop down, based on what you just told us? There's a cutoff point where the talent kind of drops off a table. What's the farthest you'd like to see the Patriots drop down?
Well, it depends what you're getting. If they're going to get a future first, mid-teens, late teens, to have 2 first-round picks next year, I'll move down a good chunk in this draft. Short of that, if you're going to get, second round pick and maybe a day 3 pick or something like that, or a second round pick and a future day 2 pick, I wouldn't go too far past 10. I'd try to stay in that top 10 just because, again, I think the next drop off in the group of players probably comes around that 11th or 12th pick. So depending on how many quarterbacks there are going, I wouldn't move out of the top 10 unless somebody really makes it worth your while. But I'd be open to that. If you're going to get a massive haul, I'd be open to a significant move back.
Is there a chance Shedeur Sanders isn't the second quarterback taken?
I don't know. I don't believe the Jackson Dart hype as much as other people do. Like, I just don't see it with him. And I don't know who else it would be. In theory, yes. I don't think teams love him maybe as much as is being put out there right now. But I also don't know what the alternative is, which makes it really hard to say no. So I guess, maybe the Jackson Dart thing is real, and he's probably the guy that would push it. But if it would be more to me Sanders falling than Dart rising. Like if Sanders
it could be a combination. Like, do you think that it's possible? And I don't know anything about Jackson Dart at all, except that that he might move into the first round. Some people are saying, but it would be like, Shedeur Sanders falls, and then you're getting into like the late teens, early 20s, and a team just has Jackson Dart higher on their board than they do Shedeur Sanders. Like, I'm not saying Jackson Dart gets taken 6th in the draft or something,
Yeah, I don't know why that's where my mind went, but yeah, if some of the concerns that have been reported about Sanders in the meetings are true, those hold a lot of weight, especially for quarterbacks where mental makeup is so important at the position. Then he might fall. And if could a team take a late first round flyer on Jackson Dart? Certainly seems like it. And if Sanders is going to fall outside of the top 20, then I would say it would become a conversation.
All right. Well, listen, it's very interesting. And Alex, you're going to have all the free agent tracking going up on offseason.985thesportshub.com. You're going to be up all day. You're going to be up all night. This is going to be a very busy 24 hours for you.
Busy week. Looking forward to it.
All right. Very good. Thanks so much, Alex. You do great work. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Barth.
Thanks, guys.
All right. There you have it. Look, there was the trade deadline that just went by in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sad for a lot of people because Marchand left. But it's time to remember the greatest trade deadline in Boston Bruins history, where we were introduced to a man who changed the population of Boston by adding to it in unmistakable ways. So many
numbers.
So many pregnancies. We will talk about that in just a moment.
More Dutcher and Hardy on the way.
Been live when I woke up today.
Subscribe 98.5 to Sports Hub, Alex Barth, all that stuff's up there. You know, that's Pasternak talking about Coyle, Carlo, Marchand, and most importantly, Brazeau, all being moved at the trade deadline. And now there is a series of picks and younger players. The team looks to, turn things around. And a lot of people, I was a little surprised, but I guess not, because people here are very loyal. And Brad Marchand being dealt was painful for people. They look at this trade deadline as like a sad time because the 2011 season was over. But there have been trade deadlines that have been absolutely glorious. And such was the case when a young man from the Czech Republic came into our lives.
Jagr is the best ever, with the background music that Fred puts on with the Jagr. Come on, you can't beat
Jagr to make the city wet and pregnant. And what am I talking about? Well, let's look no further to when Jaromir Jagr, which was at the time Czechoslovakia, was drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he was just a young innocent walking around, and a camera crew followed him. A listener sent this to me. I've actually seen it before, but we figured now was a good time to cheer people up with the Jagr, and this is real. This is not me doing the voice. This is a real report on Jaromir Jagr as they followed him around a shopping mall in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when he first came into town. I believe he was 18, 19, and this is what was going on.
And we went to Ross Park Mall, which had recently opened, and I just know that I was there to just kind of see how he would react to the culture.
What size is that?
It doesn't matter. He can't speak English.
Okay.
Paul Steigerwald took him shopping, and all he wanted were blue jeans and blue jeans jackets.
The blue jeans. Yeah, cool. Yeah, right? The Jagr, he loves the denim. The stonewash is a very stonewash. It's a camouflage for the seed.
All he was interested in were blue jeans and chocolate bars.
No,
You can't get those?
It's even funny.
No,
All he was
no.
interested was blue jeans and blue jeans. Take me place with the blue jeans.
Yeah.
This is P.S. Pristemos, where he teach me the way of
You know
the
anything else?
Cavarici.
Okay, jean jacket.
So, yes, Jean, and then the jacket. And then maybe a girl named Jean. So I can spread Jean. Jean, would you like to have the Jagr, Jean? Make a baby? It's not mine. And pregnancy test. All pre-fail.
And all he wanted were blue jeans and blue jeans jackets. He couldn't get those in the Czech Republic.
The Czech Republic. Oh. No blue jeans for the Jagr. How am I supposed to show bulge with the no blue jean? No button fly. Why? When the Jagr get excited, he bursts the button. The zipper. That's the way. Oh, excuse me. It seems that he wanted to come out to play. The puff. You know, the Jagr never shave. You have the puff.
That was their nickname, right?
No grooming down there.
No groom. The puff. Oh, look what's lingering in the puff. Little Jagr. He wants to be pleased.
You know, say the grooming can actually, though, help accentuate the size. Isn't that a concern for you?
No, it would make people uneasy.
Oh.
They'd go, Jagr, so much. The denim. The blue jeans and blue jeans.
Blue jeans and blue jeans jacket.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. Let me look like guy at the Judas Priest concert in Iraq.
Oh, does it go with the jeans? Yeah, it looks nice with the jeans. Yeah, that chambray and denim looks nice together.
Yeah, it does. The chambray and denim looks nice together, whatever chambray is.
What the hell is chambray?
I know, but I can tell you what this girl's hair looks like. It's high. If I tell you this girl's hair is sprayed a foot high, I'm not lying to you.
She got the bangs curled in the front as well?
Oh, and the lust. And I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Like, she's, like, completely enamored with this
It's
guy.
an A+ clip. Everything about this is
Yeah, I mean, like, she's, like, legit, like, into Jagr. And he doesn't even know how to speak English. He's just... His pelvis is doing all the talking. He's like Elvis on the Sullivan Show. You have to cut it out.
Here's a chambray shirt, which essentially looks like denim.
Yeah, it's denim. It's a fancy way of saying, like, look, you're dressed like Al from Home Improvement.
He captivated the city with his youthful, unbridled enthusiasm for America.
And lust.
Metal. I like metal. Metal?
Yeah, so now he's at Sam Goody. And then the guy's they're standing in front of the CDs. And he goes,
Metal. I like metal.
The only thing he can say in English is, I like metal. What kind of metal? The Bon Jovi. Come on. Shot to heart. Yeah. The Jagr give love good name.
Metal.
The Jagr can be very slippery when wet. And believe me, I know. No lubrication needed. Put it away. The Jagr eyes contact to make the lube.
Nature's KY.
Huh? What KY?
Well, that's a synthetic lubrication, an artificial lubrication.
For what? The door jam? The squeaky wheel?
No, to make sex easier.
Huh?
Well, some women aren't aroused enough, and you need a synthetic.
So
or
they're not
artificial
passing out when they see the hairy torso.
Not for all men. No, it's something that some
When I
women
take
need.
off the denim shirt and show the hairy nips,
no,
and the puff, the Jagr can make sit on towel. You're getting the Trans Am interior all messed up. I got the Bon Jovi on, and you see the denim, and now you're getting crazy. Stop biting the wheel.
Yeah, that chambray and denim looks nice together.
Yeah, the Jagr love the chambray. And the champagne. Woo.
Metal. I like metal. Metal? Metal. Like who? Any band? Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi?
Yeah, Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi.
I like metal. Bon Jovi.
Oh, you metal like Metallica, Slayer, Pantera.
No. Slippery when wet.
You know, it's not real metal. Yeah.
Johnny used to work dock. And I banged his girlfriend when he was at work because I'm in Pittsburgh. Get sandwich with French fries, then come over here and please the Jagr.
You know the song, government give him job.
The union's been on strike. While he's on strike,
What
I'm
is a
banging.
union? We don't know.
When he's on strike, I bang his girl in the Trans Am. She says, I sit on your lap. I don't care if we get an accident. I need it now. Jagr, please put a baby in me.
We want your autograph too.
And the next thing he did, he bought like a hot rod car. And it was sort of legendary how many speeding tickets he got.
How fast will this thing go? How far? Big car? Yeah. 120.
120.
Kilometers or miles?
It doesn't matter. I'm going to go fast. Honey, hang
How
on.
fast they go? What? Your car.
Your boobies are hitting me in the face. Get off Jagr's lap. The Jagr has finished. Next. Hey, everybody, we're at the red light fire drill. Switch positions. And we picked him up, and he used to get to practice, and he would get out of the car, and two ladies' heads would bump against the steering wheel. You have been like in my lap.
I understand.
Yeah, pleasuring the Jagr.
I understand.
You know? The Jagr like to get back in the seat. That will never happen again. The internet. In the fall of communism. That's a big problem. I almost hope Russia takes over the Ukraine. So that maybe there will be if they can start acquiring land again and really get oppressive, we can get more guys that are just coming to the United States for blue jeans and hot rods.
Oh, yeah.
And Bon Jovi CDs.
Blue jeans and blue jeans jackets.
All right. That was the greatest free agency of all time.
Yep.
That was the greatest. Parody Twitter accounts. Everything was
I
fun.
tried a couple of times. I don't tell anybody.
What year was that? That was 12 years ago? 12 years ago we got Jagr.
Yeah, it was after
That long?
2013?
Oh my God!
And remember, he would
12 years.
He would get the puck in the corner. He would stick his ass out, and he'd go, "My puck."
No.
No.
You may not have
You cannot have the puck. It is my puck.
What team? He had played for like 17 teams in 17 years by the time the Bruins got him. I think he was in Dallas.
Well, there was that crew of guys that would wear the Jagr jerseys to the
Yeah.
games with him from every team, and it was like they had to get a crew of like 25 guys.
Stuff he would do would be legendary. Like he would skate around the ice after the game
Oh,
with
yeah.
just a toque on and a cup, and that was it.
No, he would give you 16 minutes time on ice, and then he would do 60 with a weighted vest after the game.
Right.
With no shirt on
No
and
shirt.
in a jock strap.
Right.
Sometimes just a jock strap
Yeah.
and skates, and he would go around with
And
a
a
jock
toque-
strap.
and a toque with a
and
pom-pom
but-
on hat
Well,
on
my
top.
head gets very cold.
He was the best.
Yeah, that chambray and denim looks nice together.
Please, can you get more chambray? It looks good with denim, right?
How fast? The car? Yeah. Around the 20.
I want to look like royalty. Chambray denim with denim pants. And big puffy Reeboks. This is Mark Mingles.
No, not the Shelton, not the Ken Shelton.
No.
Now he's starting to sound like Triumph.
He is a little bit.
No, do not want to look like
I want to
Carter
look,
Allen.
look like a WAAF DJ. Real, like a scum. Give me
Real
the puffy
dirtbag.
Reebok high top with the blue jean tight, stuffed into the Reebok with the Charbray shirt on. Cool.
Blue jeans and blue jeans jackets.
Excuse me, I have to interview Dakin. He's breaking the chains.
Enjoy.
Excuse me. A Bachman Turner overdrive are in town. I need to get the hot rod there quick. It's going to be party hardy. I love metal. What do you like? The
Enthusiasm for America.
Yay! I have such enthusiasm. All right.
You realize he's still playing?
Sort of, yeah.
He's playing over in Kladno. I mean, I'm looking at. He actually has 5 goals this season. He's 53. He's still playing hockey.
Yeah. He's still, yeah.
Unbelievable.
And if you want to do yourself a favor, and it will be better than my terrible impression, do yourself a favor and get on YouTube and look up Jaromir Jagr, Czech Republic ads that he does. Because it's everything. It's everything. There's this one where it's like 20 hot chicks, and they're having a party, and they see that there's a fire on TV, and Jagr's the fireman that comes into it. So the women, they start scrambling around, and they take the birthday cake with the lit candles and put it up to the smoke alarm, And so Jagr will come as the fireman, and Jagr shows up as the fireman, and they start just like rubbing him, and he just goes like, oopsies. And it's for like, dog food. It's kind of like nothing to do with anything. Is the dog food. All right, very good. Well, I'll never do Jagr again, but I just had to play that clip. That was very good. All right, when we come back, Bill Belichick had a little bit of a disturbing video that came out. Plus, we'll talk about a little bit more about what happened in NFL free agency in just a moment.
You're listening to Toucher and What's the best way to listen to Toucher and Hardy?
Well, you're going to have to spend $40.
Cough it up, and let's get back to
But they also made a free
yes,
agent signing.
they've made a couple of signings. They signed Harold Landry, former Tennessee Titan, played for Vrabel in Tennessee, former Boston College football star, and they re-signed Austin Hooper to a one-year deal.
Yeah, and a guy sent me this. His name is Tyler. Diana Rossini tweeted out and then took it down. She said, while the Jets are making an effort to keep Morgan Moses, he is expected to hit free agency per source, and it says Morgan Moses with a Patriots logo. And
Okay.
Morgan Moses is a good right tackle. He's old.
Old? How old?
In his 30s.
Okay.
And he plays he's tough, and the Jets wanted to keep him, but the Jets didn't want to keep him necessarily to start.
Yeah.
Maybe to start the season, but they wanted to get an heir apparent to play later.
You see, it's interesting. I was reading Mike Reese's Sunday Notes column, and he was of the mind that the Patriots are going to give Caden Wallace a good run at the right tackle position because he was a right tackle in college. They tried to make him a left tackle. That failed miserably, and he got hurt. But now with a full off season to heal, they might give him the right tackle position, or try to anyway.
Yeah, and if you did not know this, DK Metcalf, Alex Barth thinks that the Patriots should have done it. I disagree. The Steelers gave up a second-round pick. They gave Metcalf a big contract. If I'm the Patriots, I don't know if I'm in the business of giving up the fourth pick in the second round.
No, and as we were talking about, the Patriots could have easily matched that. They had a better second-round pick to offer and more cap space if they really wanted DK Metcalf. Since all of a sudden he was fine going to a cold weather city, then they could have done it. It was clear they didn't want to.
Yeah, the cold weather city thing I never bought, but yeah, so now the Steelers just need a quarterback, but the Steelers are looking at
Aaron Rodgers. That is the rumor this morning that Aaron Rodgers is in play for Pittsburgh.
Just real quickly and we'll get to the Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. The thing I agree with Barth on, though, and this is this ongoing debate as to, oh no, you don't want to give up the fourth pick in the second round. You don't want to give up a second rounder for DK Metcalf or hardly anyone else. You draft a receiver because the Patriots are all of a sudden convinced they can draft receivers. Like, DK Metcalf can do the job.
Jalen Polk, top of the second round last year.
He can do the job.
You're talking about Bill Belichick and Elliott Wolf, and now it's completely. I mean, Elliott Wolf's still around, but who knows what his job is? I mean, it's a totally different regime. You can't go. I mean, then you can go like in the '84 draft or the '82 draft. The Patriots took Tony Eason. They can't draft quarterbacks. I mean, yeah, they've had trouble drafting receivers, but you can't go with that.
There is great value in getting something that will work, and that's why I've always erred on the side of going after a player as opposed to holding on to draft picks. If it's straight down the middle, it could be a toss up. Give me the player. Give me the guy that I know can do it.
Maybe not at this stage in the rebuild. So we went through it, and Barth said if you go and you hit everything in free agency and you draft well, it's good. I mean, the Patriots could be competitive in December, around 500. Maybe they finish, 8-9 or something.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. 7-10. Like, that seems like best case scenario. If you bring in DK Metcalf, does that number move? I don't think so.
Are you ready to give $30 million a year for the next 5 years to a guy who wasn't the number one receiver on his own team last year?
That's what it requires. That's the number. I mean, don't get wrapped up in the amount of money because you see the money now that is being spent. It's an outrageous, it's an obscene amount of money. Do you want to have a proven wide receiver, or do you think that, with Elliott Wolf still involved, all of a sudden they're going to be able to identify and draft wide receiver talent?
Yes, I think I would hope, because then you're never going to be good, regardless if you get DK Metcalf or not. If you can't identify talent in the draft, then you're just not going to be good ever.
Yeah, it depends on who's in charge. I mean, does Elliott Wolf really have an op? Because Elliott Wolf's the guy who took Jalen Polk last year without Bill Belichick here.
Yes, but he is certainly not running things to the same degree that he ran them last year.
That's what I was getting to.
And by the way, DK Metcalf's not the number one receiver on the Steelers. Pickens is the number one receiver on the Steelers. They brought in DK Metcalf. They need to win a playoff game. That's what they're doing. And Tomlin needs to win a playoff game. And if any team was going to bring in Rodgers, it had to be the Steelers. It would have to be the Steelers because Rodgers is going to get any other coach fired.
The quarterback carousel is interesting, too, because obviously they had Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. They're both on their way out. So now that loops the Jets in. The Jets are very interested in Justin Fields. So if Fields makes it out of Pittsburgh by noon today, apparently the Jets are going to be all in on him to bring him in.
Yeah, and now look
Which
out.
is wild.
Well, I mean, look out. Well, he's better than Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, Geno Smith is better than Aaron Rodgers. And you can ask Geno Smith, got a third-round pick to get Geno Smith because the Raiders are looking to stabilize things. They brought in Pete Carroll. He'll coach 2 or 3 years. Geno Smith, you said, he turns 35 this season.
October.
He's got 2 years, 3 years left. He's an above-average quarterback. They're just looking to stabilize things. But I can tell you this, I'd rather have Geno Smith than I would Aaron Rodgers. Geno Smith right now is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think they're looking to stabilize things now in Las Vegas only because I get the sense that Tom Brady and whatever other system they've got in place there haven't been able to do what they thought they were going to be able to do. I'm sure when they got Brady on board with his ownership stake and he started speaking on behalf of the team, like they thought, oh, he'll get us Ben Johnson. He'll get us some young coach that is going to that we're going to be able to build with for 5, 10, maybe even more years. And he's going to convince quarterbacks to come here, and Tom Brady is going to do this, and Tom Brady is that. He hasn't done it.
No. What Tom Brady did won Ben Johnson. But here's the thing is that Tom Brady went into that organization and said, this is chaos. And we know for sure, at least this is what I've heard, is that he brought in Pete Carroll going, there just needs to be someone who comes in and sets a culture and makes things normal, stabilizes everything. Pete Carroll, look, if we hire a first-year coach he wasn't going to get Aaron Glenn. He wasn't going to get Ben Johnson. So maybe he didn't like the other options that were out there, and he knows Pete Carroll can do that. Pete Carroll can do that. He's never not done it, except for when he coached the Jets. But, he did it. He wasn't a bad coach with the Patriots.
He was about 500.
Yeah. He was great at USC. He was great at Seattle. He can coach. He can do it. So you bring him in. He does that. Geno Smith gets you through that period. Look, you're not winning that. I think they're playing it knowing that they're not going to win that division in the next 2 or 3 years, and that's the play. And so we have Max Crosby. We have our tight end. I mean, we have a couple offensive line pieces. Let's build this with the idea of in 3 years, now we're going to be the team in the AFC West, hopefully. Because you got by far, I mean, even with Geno Smith, maybe I don't think he's even as good as Bo Nix, so you're not going to compete in that
Does
division.
that take him out of the quarterback in the first round?
Who?
The Raiders. Does that take them out of drafting a quarterback in the first round or two?
Yes, I don't think they like the quarterbacks there. I don't because they wouldn't have given up a 3rd-round pick for Geno Smith if they weren't going to extend him. So they're going to keep him for 2 or 3. They're going to give him a 3-year deal, maybe 2 years guaranteed. And I don't think that they're going to draft a quarterback.
No, 2 years from now they're going to have to, or they're going to have to do something else. But no, I think Geno Smith is their plan.
And if the Steelers get Aaron Rodgers and the Jets get Justin Fields, this tells me that no one likes the quarterbacks in this draft.
Sure.
This tells me that there's Cam Ward and that no one wants Shedeur Sanders. Because I bet you Daniel Jones starts for the Vikings this year, and then J.J. McCarthy ends up being the starter. But you're going to tell me that Daniel Jones, because if the Giants bring in Aaron Rodgers, Daboll's getting fired. The last 3 coaches that Mike McCarthy got fired, then Green Bay had the sense to convince everyone to move him out. Then he got Saleh fired. Then he got Ulbrich fired. So if Tomlin can handle it, because they're not going to fire Tomlin in Pittsburgh. They just gave him an extension. They're not going to fire Tomlin in Pittsburgh. But Tomlin desperately needs to win a playoff game.
Yeah.
So if he can bring in Aaron Rodgers and maybe the Steelers take like Jackson Dart or something.
I was just going to say
later.
you need a backup plan there. You can't just say Rodgers and nobody.
No,
you
no,
need a backup plan.
Rodgers would be legitimately for this year. You're coming in, dude, and you're playing this year. You are not bringing in anyone you want. We're not bringing in Alan Lazard. We're not bringing in Nathaniel Hackett. You are going to play for the Steelers this year, and this is what you're going to do. And that will be what the situation is.
And you might be right in Minnesota because they can't afford to put J.J. McCarthy out there right away and have him go through some growing pains and drop a couple of games while he's figuring things out. In that division, if you want to be competitive, you need to win right away. And then hopefully if they see McCarthy as a better option based on what they've seen in practice after a few weeks, then you start him. But hopefully with enough confidence under his belt to where you keep winning.
Okay, because there was a rumor. The reason I brought up playing Daniel Jones is that there was a rumor that the Vikings could be interested in bringing in Aaron Rodgers. And to that, I would say there's no way. O'Connell can't afford to do that. There's no way. It causes so many problems. If you bring in Aaron Rodgers, first of all, you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers. Second of all, when are you going to play J.J. McCarthy? So J.J. McCarthy, you want him to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year?
It completes the full Favre, though. I mean, it's
true.
Packers
That's all
to
that's
the Vikings.
That's every Jets writer's wet dream is that that he's going to go to Minnesota and like go to the NFC Championship.
The
game.
triumvirate is complete.
Yeah, exactly. So Green Bay to the Jets, and then has success in Green Bay, goes to the Jets, and then fails, and then goes to Minnesota and succeeds. That's what every Jets writer wants. Kevin O'Connell would be out of his mind to do that. If Tomlin doesn't want Russell Wilson and doesn't want Justin Fields, and he wants to draft a quarterback, but he wants a guy in place, that organization can probably handle it. And by the way, again, they brought in DK Metcalf to be their second receiver. DK Metcalf is not their number one receiver. Pickens is their number one receiver. And now they have two head cases at receiver, so that's going to be fun to look at too. Because Pickens is a maniac. Have you seen him on the field?
I have.
You can be watching a game.
He's incredibly talented, but
live. You can be watching a game live, not a replay, not an isolated shot on him, and watch him complain during a play. You'll see it. My dad's house. Watch the Steelers. You'll just see Pickens raise his hand and start yelling and screaming while the play is going on, in the middle of a play, and you'll go, "What the hell's going on?" Not in isolation, not a replay. You can see him running around the field. You're looking at the ball, but Pickens is making such a fuss. You're like, "What's the hell's going on downfield?" He's a maniac. So you bring in Aaron Rodgers, that's going to be a funny team because you're going to have a maniac at quarterback, and he's a real maniac who's going to get hurt immediately because he can't move and he's going to get hit. Oh, he was hurt last year. Well, got news for you. He's a year older and he's going to get hurt again because he can't move. And every time he gets hit, he gets hurt. So it's a big pain in the ass.
Pittsburgh's going to be here this coming season. Can't wait.
If they bring in Aaron Rodgers, it will be fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to test Tomlin to the nth degree. And they still have Arthur Smith there, right?
I don't remember.
Yes, I think Arthur Smith is their offensive coordinator.
Okay.
So Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin are pretty well established.
Yep.
Yeah, so they might be able to handle it. That team. Because they make the playoffs every year, but there's a lot of pressure on Tomlin, not from the organization, but in that town. There's a lot of Steelers fans that want him fired because he hasn't won playoff game. Because they haven't been able to figure out the quarterback position since Roethlisberger. So maybe they bring in Rodgers and then they draft the kid late in the first round. Maybe they draft Jackson Dart late in the first round. Relatively late in the 20s. But it should be interesting. The free agents that are out there now, not so great. But if they got Morgan Moses, he's a good character guy. I mean, he's certainly better than anything you got. And maybe he could play left tackle. I don't know. He played right tackle for the Jets. Maybe he could play left tackle. I don't know. He's a veteran. He's good.
I know, but if you're going to get a left tackle, get a left tackle, not a guy who might be able to flip over.
The guy sent me the screen grab of it. Rossini had the Morgan Moses going to the Patriots. And
I don't want
if that happened, you could do worse.
No, I don't want that guy to play left tackle.
Fine, then have him play right tackle.
Fine.
He's a good right tackle.
Fine.
And if you have a kid that you think that could take over that position, have Morgan Moses play the first 6-7 games and then have the kid take over at right tackle.
That's what they have. They drafted Caden Wallace, who played right tackle at Penn State, to be a right tackle for this team.
And maybe that's
so.
And if they got Morgan Moses, you know what? I like that for the Patriots. Morgan Moses comes in. I wish he'd stay with the Jets, but if Morgan Moses played, he's older. He's really tough. He's a great locker room guy. You bring him in, he plays right tackle, and he'd be fine if you go, all right, we're going to put this kid in.
Fine is good.
No. When I said he'd be fine, he's better than fine at right tackle.
Good.
But he would be, I think, amicable to not playing. If you had a kid that took over for him, he's a really good character guy. So I'd be a little excited if mildly. It's not you're getting Patrick Mahomes or something, but look,
no, today's not going to be a sexy
Morgan
day.
Moses would be a really quality free agent signing, I think, for the Patriots. He's not going to cost you $1 trillion. I think it's pretty good. All right, we didn't get to the Belichick thing, which I'm sure is going to make people very upset. Ryan Johnson's going to join us at 9:00 to talk about what's going on in the NHL. Joe Murray, we have some stuff about him. There's a lot going on. Well, I'll get to all of it.
Essential Sports Hub headline presented by Celsius and
Patriots have been making some deals. This morning, they sent starting defensive lineman Devon Godchaux to New Orleans for a 7th-round draft pick next year, and they also signed a couple of guys last night. Former Tennessee and BC edge rusher Harold Landry is coming to town on a 3-year, $43.5 million contract, and tight end Austin Hooper has re-signed. It's a 1-year deal. A lot of deals done yesterday. Buffalo re-signed Josh Allen to a 5-year, $330 million contract. Seattle traded wideout DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh for a 2nd-round pick, and Cleveland has re-signed Myles Garrett to a 4-year, $160 million contract. Celtics host Utah tonight. Grandy and Max have the pregame at 7 and the tip-off at 7:30 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Jason Tatum and Al Horford are questionable. Kristaps Porzingis is doubtful. And the Red Sox beat Atlanta in Fort Myers, Florida yesterday 7-3. Red Sox have a scheduled day off today. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by the Northeast Golf Show. Arbella Insurance welcomes the Northeast Golf Show to Gillette Stadium Friday to Sunday. Enjoy free parking and the best deals of the year. Save $3 with code SPORTSHUB at northeastgolfshow.com. I'm John Wallach of Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9 o'clock.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
We're Toucher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Very quickly before we get to the quick Belichick thing, did everyone watch the Lakers Celtics? I did.
Yep.
And you were impressed?
Yes.
Doncic looks phenomenal with that back of his. I'll tell you, I guess LeBron is only out 1 to 2 weeks, and if I was them, I wouldn't play him till April anyway. I'd just sit him. And first of all, I've never rooted for the Celtics harder in a game than that prick with that prick coach of the Lakers.
I know.
And second of all,
he and Missoula are good friends too. That's the thing.
Well, he seems to be good friends with anyone who will benefit him. He seems like that kind of guy. I just don't know why ABC hired him. I know why the Lakers hired him. He's a good coach
because he's pompous and controversial, and people will hate watch him.
But when is being super pompous something that you want to hear? I guess Howard Cosell, but he went to Yale.
Yeah, I know.
All right, anyway.
It's different. But, yeah, Missoula called J.J. Redick when he was forming his first coaching staff, wanted Redick to be an assistant under him.
Well, I mean, Redick's a good coach. I mean, he turned out to be a good coach.
But anyway, it was a lot of fun to watch the game. A lot of fun.
I just am fascinated by how Luka performs on a basketball court. He's fat and slow. The idea that he can score like that is unbelievable. That he can dribble past anyone because he can get to the rim. Now listen, he has to do these insane floaters off either hand. But he can get to the. I've never seen anyone like him.
Well, listen, I know you saw him in person the other night. To me, he doesn't look that different from Nikola Jokic. But Jokic, on the other hand, goes off for the triple-double the other night, never before done in NBA history. Yep. What was he, 32, 22, and 21?
Yeah, first 30, 20, 20 triple-double ever.
Yeah. No, Jokic is really big and gets himself in super strong. And I know how Jokic plays. Jokic is really strong and really big, and he's got incredible passing skills. That's what Jokic does. And he can hit a three, too, but mostly it's just strength.
Well, this year, actually, he's much better from the three.
Yeah, he can hit a three if he has to, but that's not his game. But, when he can, if you double team him, just shove himself in between you and he'll find an open man. I get Jokic. Jokic is 7 foot tall.
Yeah, Luka,
I do not understand.
He's the antithesis of modern NBA basketball. Everyone, we've talked about this before. Everyone, rush, get the ball up the floor. Nope. With Luka on your team, he dribbles around for about 15 or 20 seconds and then sees what happens.
But he's not athletic at all.
No.
I don't understand it. But anyway, so that happened. So congratulations to the Celtics. But very quickly.
Yes. First of all, congratulations are in order. Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson celebrated their anniversary on Friday night. Oh. This is what all mature couples do. They celebrate dating anniversaries. This is something that I'm sure you'll be doing at some point, Fred, as you're dating now in your mature life. And if you
who remembers, what's considered your first date?
Jordan remembers for sure. So they went out on Friday night. They had a chocolate cake that said "Happy Anniversary" on it, and written on the plate.
Did she put all this on the internet, or was there paparazzi?
This is her Instagram. Oh, and then on the dessert plate, etched in chocolate, it says "Better late than never." Now, I don't know if they were late celebrating their anniversary or if they just met late in his life, but that's what they did on Friday night. Over the weekend, however, a video went viral of the two of them attending a basketball game, and Bill appears unsteady on his feet. She is there kind of holding his hand, but I don't know if he's got some kind of a foot issue or an ankle issue.
What?
He's just walking like an old man. Yeah. I don't know what's going on, but in order to truly celebrate their anniversary and this video of Jordan and Bill walking together, we have to thank Jake, who sent us this email. Hey, guys, in honor of their first anniversary on Friday, my friends and I wrote a song commemorating their love and their special connection. Please enjoy. This is Jake in New Hampshire and his Bill Belichick song.
He was the greatest coach in history. She was a student of philosophy. They met on a plane. They started to frolic. She didn't care that he was older than Wallach. Closer in love. Whoa, closer in love. 50 years doesn't matter. They finally found each other. Praise the Lord above. That these two lovebirds are finally closer in love.
You know, it works as an intro to, almost like a dramedy. I wouldn't call it a sitcom or even a full-hour dramatic network offering, but something in the middle.
It's like what was it? The Notebook, when they would keep reading. Maybe one day she'll read the story to Bill over and over again for the first time of how they met.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, and it will be new to him every single time. Maybe in 2 or 3 years that will be, and then the will be taken care of, and she'll get her money, and that will be fantastic. So he was looking a little unsteady on his feet.
I mean, it's not great. Here, I'll re-rack this for you.
Yeah, now, keep in mind, he's just trying to negotiate a long straightaway. There are no curves involved.
Yeah, she's like kind of pulling him along.
Yeah, this is a caregiver kind of walk. This isn't.
So she puts all this on Instagram.
Yeah,
I told you guys I went to a weekend thing with someone who does Instagram stuff, and that's how they were getting this weekend thing. And never was even the topic broached that I would be in any of the videos or pictures. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not, no. Yeah. And she was cool. She was like, yeah, of course not. Like, I'm not going to put you in any of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be in your Instagram stuff. Like, I don't want to do it. And this is part of what this woman does and she's very good at it, and she has businesses and stuff, but her main promotion of this stuff is Instagram. And she had worked a deal with the place that we were at that she would put videos up in exchange for, it wasn't Kendra. It was in exchange for where we were for the weekend. And she never even asked me. It was never even on the table that I would be in one of those videos. That's ludicrous. Oh my God. Sad. Very sad. It's very sad. All right, look, Ryan Johnston. People are very sad about Brad Marchand's segue. Ryan Johnston, of course, is the voice of the Bruins. Let's talk about everything that went down on Friday. His thoughts on it coming right up.
First, though, they signed former Tennessee pass rusher and BC star Harold Landry to a 3-year, $43.5 million contract. They have re-signed tight end Austin Hooper to a 1-year deal as well. Around the league, things went crazy last night. Buffalo re-signed Josh Allen to a 5-year, $330 million contract. And then Seattle traded wideout DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh for a second-round pick. And the Steelers then signed Metcalf to a 5-year, $150 million deal. The LA Rams have signed former Jets wideout Devontae Adams to a 2-year, $46 million contract. And Cleveland has re-signed Myles Garrett to a 4-year, $160 million deal. Fresh from a home win over the Lakers Saturday night, the Celtics entertain Utah this evening. Randy and Max have the pregame at 7 and the tip-off at 7:30 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Jason Tatum and Al Horford are questionable. Kristaps Porzingis is listed as doubtful. And the Red Sox beat Atlanta at JetBlue Park in Fort Myers yesterday 7-3. Today is a scheduled day off. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by the 99 Restaurants. Celebrate St. Patrick's Day this Sunday and Monday at the Nines. Enjoy the traditional corned beef and cabbage dinner with a Lucky Horseshoe Ale. You gotta love the Nines. I'm John Wallach at Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9:30.
Listen to it, laugh at it, get mad at it, agree with it, argue about it. It is Boston Sports. Boston Sports. And it is all we do. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Fred describes himself in 7 words.
A guy in tights and a cape.
And Hardy with blunt honesty.
I am not known as Mr. Fun.
Toucher and Hardy continues on the Sports Hub.
It's the worst side of the business we are in. We have to stick together, and in the tough moments, that's on the other hand, it's the beauty of this sport that you have 20 friends that you can rely on, and we are in this together, and we're not losing any hopes, and we're gonna miss those guys.
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy. Brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Get in on all the fun on YouTube by going to 985thesportshub.com. And you can get a bunch of stuff like Alex Barth's videos, Ty Anderson's videos. You can get Felger and Maz and the Midday Show and all that stuff. We're live. Joe Murray's live. Just subscribe to 98.5 The Sports Hub. Brian Johnston, of course, has done this show, filled in on this show many, many times, even recently. And now he's the voice of the Boston Bruins on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Ryan, hello, sir.
Hey, good to talk to you again so soon.
Yeah, who would have thought? Who could have seen this?
Actually, I didn't know. I didn't think, and I didn't know that we would be having more conversations today, based on anything other than, well, they really didn't pull off anything big, and they're just kind of, laying low, and you're going to let them. Oh no! Friday was a whirlwind.
Okay, so Friday was a whirlwind. What are you thinking the reasons were for Brad Marchand's the relatively low return based on what they got for other players?
So, yeah, I'm basing this on, a lot of other people's reporting. There have been a number of things that came out over the course of the last few days about it. Listen, Don Sweeney said point blank on Friday that there was a gap there in the contract talks. They weren't able to come to an agreement. And some of it may have had to do with term, and some of it may have had to do with money, or a combination of the two. The last report that I saw was that the Bruins apparently were willing to go to 3 years, but that the money part of it needed to be right, and they couldn't get across the finish line. Now, again, that's all from other people's reporting. As far as the return, some of the reports seem to indicate that the Bruins were working with Marchand, that once they realized that there wasn't going to be a contract, that they basically allowed Marchand to pick his spot. or maybe give them a very short list of places that he wanted to be, and they would work out a deal that way. Certainly, the injury has to factor into it, because the expectation we find out after the trade deadline passed is that Marchand's probably not going to be ready to play until maybe right before the playoffs. They're talking 3 to 4 weeks. And so if you're Florida or any other team at that point, how much are you willing to give up for a guy if you're not even going to have him for the rest of the regular season? You're only going to have him for the postseason, and you don't know how long that's going to be. And so, ultimately they settled on a second rounder that could turn into a first. And, the Bruins fans, have the enviable task of rooting for the Florida Panthers to go deep in the playoffs if you want to see the full realization of what they got back in return.
Yeah, but which doesn't sting as much as it would have last year or the year before, because that this team doesn't have a chance at anything. So, it's going to feel a little bit weird. But how weird is it, do you think, in the locker room, Ryan? Because Marchand not only is the captain, but somebody who's been there for so long and is, the so much of the face and personality of the team, to have that gone. How do you think that's playing?
Yeah, it's it's kind of a little different in that Marchand hadn't been around since he got hurt, so he wasn't around really much for the last week, and so we hadn't seen him. But there's no question. I mean, you could feel it just on Saturday, and it's not just Marchand, but losing Carlo and Coyle to trades at the same time. Bob Beers and I talked about it over the weekend. It's a real loss of the leadership of this team. McAvoy's been sidelined for a while, so he's not around. So really of those core pieces, you've basically got just Pasternak and Swayman that are in the locker room right now. And so, that just had a very odd feeling when we went to Saturday's game. And you could tell that, a lot of the players are kind of a little shocked by where this all ended up, and the fact that wholesale changes were made in this regard. And yet, they're all still telling you, well, hey, listen, we're only a few points out of the playoffs. Maybe we can put a run together. I think it took everyone by surprise that the moves were that there were this many moves with this many top caliber players off of the roster.
What do you think of Pasternak's leadership ability? He seems to be the next guy in line to wear the C. I'm just wondering, based on what you've observed, how do you think he fits in there?
Yeah, Pasta's listen, he's not exactly your stereotypical captain. He's a pretty loose guy, and he has a lot of fun, and he's always got a smile on his face, and it doesn't mean he doesn't take things seriously. I don't know, because I'm not in the room during intermissions. I'm not in the room right before games and things like that. But from what Joe Sacco has been talking about, from what some of the players have been talking about, Pasternak has taken some leaps and bounds here this year in his leadership role, in part because McAvoy's been out here for a little bit. But it also just because it's been necessary that, he has been such a great player for this team when a lot of other guys have been struggling, that, he's kind of taken that on his shoulders. And so, I don't necessarily agree with you, John, that he's the next guy in line. Listen, McAvoy's got something to say about that. We don't even know when they'll name a new captain. It's not going to happen this year, it sounds like. And, who knows? Maybe they do it during the offseason. Maybe they wait and make sure that when they give that honor to somebody, that it's the right person. But, I do know that a lot of people around that locker room seem to think that Pasternak has taken steps forward as far as taking a bigger role in the leadership of this team.
What do you know about the center they got from the Avalanche? Because they got him at they're giving him about $6 million for the next couple of years. What do you know about him?
$6 million for the next couple of years?
Casey Middlestat, the kid, he's $5.7 million for the next couple of years.
Yeah, so he's I think we'll kind of get a better chance to see him. So you don't get a chance to see him all that much when he's playing in Colorado, but he had spent some time prior to that in Buffalo. I think in a lot of ways excuse me, is gonna mirror Charlie Coyle. He's good two-way player. Is going to give you some strength down the middle. He can, he's got the ability and has shown it in the past. A couple of years ago, he had almost 60 points. So he's got the ability to score. Didn't sound like he was perhaps used the best way or as much as he would have liked in Colorado. And so his numbers dipped off a little bit this year. And so we'll see how they deploy him and see how he fits in here over the time that he's here. I don't know him all that much. I'm looking forward. I thought he had a good impact right off the bat the other day. He could have had 2 assists because of the way they scored it. He didn't get the first assist, but he was the one who set up the play on the Bruins' first goal the other day. So, I think overall, I think they replaced a lot of Charlie Coyle's skill set, bringing him back, and then got other assets in return. And I think that was, if you look at how they approached it, and you can look at Yoki Haru, the defenseman they brought over from Buffalo. He replaces a lot of what you lost in Brandon Carlo. And in the meantime, you get a first-round draft pick and a great prospect in Fraser Minton back for Carlo. And so, I think the moves that they did make, they replaced a lot of those skills that they were losing, and we'll see if they can get the same level of production out of Middlestead that they were out of Charlie Coyle here in the last couple of years.
Did you get a real sense of, I don't know if remorse is the right word, but, at least regret or, hat holding from Sweeney on Friday? Because I wanted to, and he said a couple of in my mind, the right things by saying if he had done a better job, none of this would have been necessary. But he seemed to couch it a little bit too, Ryan, saying stuff like, well, if I had done my job, we would have added, like we've done every year for the last 10 years. He tried to, throw in there like, hey, don't forget about all the good stuff I've done here too, where I don't know if that was the time or the place for it.
Well, I mean, listen, this is what happened on Friday and really all of last week with Trent Frederick going in as well was a major turning of the page in this organization. And so, Don Sweeney doesn't, do those press conferences that often. And so I'm sure he wanted to address a lot of different things in addition to the moves that he made about what's happened here in the past few years. And listen, people have differing opinions on Don Sweeney's tenure here as the general manager. They have done, in my opinion, over a lot of years, they have done everything that they can to try to get another Stanley Cup here. And that, includes the dealing away of first round picks year after year after year. Go back to when they traded for Rick Nash and they gave up the first round pick for him. And that was supposed to be a longer term solution. Unfortunately, Nash gets hurt. Those things you really can't control. But as a fan, long before I was a broadcaster, I wanted to see another Stanley Cup here. And I thought that they did everything in their power to try and bring that by making those deals. Some of them didn't work out. And then you go back to 2 years ago when you certainly had a team that was right at the top of the list for teams that, were going for it. They did everything that they could do to go for it in that season, and the players let them down. There have been failures on the ice. There certainly have been failures in the front office too along the way. And I don't think they would shy away from that. But I think, there have been failures on the ice too, that even when they've made the right moves and they've given the team everything that they can to try and go for it, it hasn't worked out. And so I think that's part of what Sweeney was addressing the other day is, listen, he said, if I had done my job better, we wouldn't be in this situation. So he's taking some ownership of that. But I think the players also take ownership of some of the failures to get further in the playoffs in some of these years.
All right. What do you think the turnaround time is for this? They're going to have some cap space. They have some picks they can take picks. They even have some luxuries where they could move a pick and not cripple their, future to get a young talent. If they do things right this offseason, what do you think is a realistic expectation for this team if they're healthy?
Yeah, it depends on which direction they choose to go. As you said, I mean, they collected a lot of draft capital here in the next 2 or 3 years. Do they sit on those and wait and use those picks and draft and develop? If so, that's a much longer timeline than if you flip those picks. You've got obviously, some time before the draft and before free agency opens. Do you go out onto the market and use those picks to trade for NHL established players and bring those guys in? Do you wait for a guy like Will Zellers, who they acquired in one of those deals, who's supposed to be, again, by all accounts, a really good prospect, but he's 18 years old and he's headed to college this fall. So he's going to be doing at least a year at North Dakota, and then, who knows where he's at that point. Do you hold on to that guy and develop him over the course of the next few years into an NHL caliber player, or do you try to flip him and get something that you can use now? That's the direction that they have to choose. They've made their choice as far as what to do about this year and whether to go into a retooling mode, which they certainly have. Now, are you going to be patient, or is the organization going to be patient enough to go through a multi-year retooling, or are you going to try and accelerate that and use the assets that you got in these trades to push on the accelerator and say, we want to be back in this thing next year or the year after, and then it's up to, what are you going to get, and how hungry our team's going to be for what you still have to offer. And so the timeline is really, I don't think we're going to know the answer to that question probably until late June, right around July 1st, and we'll see what direction they go in. And then, as you said, Kit Fred, they've cleared a decent amount of cap space here. And so, a lot of teams are going to have a lot of cap space because of the way that the cap is jumping up here. But, the Bruins are going to be in a position to spend on some pretty good free agents, I would imagine, as well as re-sign some of the guys that they've already got on the roster.
Just quickly, this Dean Letourneau, or however how you pronounce it, the first round pick last year for the Bruins is on Boston College. He's got 0 goals and 3 assists in 32 games. Does that concern you at all? Because as we look at Sweeney going into current drafts, or am I just being like a novice, never seen the kid play, and it's not a big deal?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I really haven't seen the kid play either, so I can't judge, what level of prospect it is. It's a little it has to be a little concerning.
Right. It seems odd.
Yeah.
It seems like if you took a kid in the first round and he's playing at BC, you would at least want him to be good.
Oddly enough, when he was taken, if I don't know, Ryan, maybe you know more about this than I do, the chatter was, boy, that might be a reach.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's, you don't know with the young kids. I've heard from some people that perhaps, BC hasn't been the best fit for him roster-wise, and maybe that they're not using him the right way or whatever. I don't know. But, I would imagine that given the state of college sports and, if he wants to move around this offseason and go somewhere else, or decide to start his pro career and the Bruins get him into the organization and start working with him, I think we'll get a better idea of what he is. But yeah, I mean, listen, the numbers, the 0 goals gets brought up a lot, and obviously I would think that's concerning for anybody that you would have judged a first round pick, but that's, not gonna judge a guy for his career based on 3/4 or a full year in college.
It's more just, I think it's funny that I know who he is now and that I'm aware of his college stats because of the blowout that's happening, because there is that concern if you keep these picks, Sweeney being able to follow through on them. And it's just kind of example. By the way, this kid is gigantic.
Yeah.
This 6'7", 230-pound forward.
He's enormous, but again, they took him near the end of the first round, and people were like, really?
Was he a stay-home forward?
I know. He's a grinder. He's
with a guy like that, size-wise too, and again, I don't know too much about him, but it could just be that he's, growing into himself, and it's going to take him a while.
Believe me, I know all about that. Yeah.
Obviously, Fred. Yeah. But it's, you look at a guy, and two different players and two different situations, but he has the size of like a Tage Thompson in Buffalo, and Tage Thompson's turned into a legitimate, high scoring threat in the NHL. He wasn't that when he first started. And so, it could just be a situation where, the guy's, he's a massive human being, and he's just kind of going to figure that out along the way and figure out what his abilities really are.
All right. Well, listen, Ryan, awesome job as always. Appreciate you doing the show a couple times in a row. And you're doing a great job, obviously, on the broadcast. It's phenomenal, and I'm very proud of you. I love listening to it. Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Fred.
All right.
Good to talk to you guys.
There you
See
go.
ya.
I love Ryan. Ryan's good.
Get it
He's
wrong.
really good at those games. Very good at those games.
You can tell the joy he has in doing that kind of thing and how grateful he is.
Would
to
we
be
be able
there.
to detect that same level of joy in your Bryant basketball call?
Sure.
Okay.
They're not in the tournament, though, this year.
Actually, they were first place in the conference this year, Fred. 14-2, top seed in the America East Conference tournament into the semifinals.
Will you please let me know? Will they please let you go call the tournament game if they make the tournament?
I hopefully they will.
Do you know this JV school, Bryant, which is actually like a good, really good school and a good sports school?
Yeah.
Believe me, if you want Milo, we'll talk. But
they have a very good baseball team
yeah,
too.
maybe
yeah.
too good. But the thing is that look, if they make the tournament, last time they made the NCAA tournament, they had a real a-hole on the team too. But last time they made the tournament, Peter Criss, he was a real
Kiss.
he was a real
Kiss.
jerk off. They didn't let John go do the game, which
did
is
the game?
ridiculous.
They didn't have a radio for the game.
Oh, why would you?
It's just ridiculous. It's crazy that they wouldn't do that. It's like this.
They
is
didn't want
like,
to pay for the travel?
Apparently not.
And where was the game? Like Philadelphia?
No, it was first four in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, geez. Well, how would you get there?
Now the theory is bracketology has them as a 15 seed this morning. So we're going to stay out of the play-in round this year if they run the table.
Yeah, suck on that, Fred.
So bracketology is out today?
Bracketology is out today.
A new one?
They're a 15 seed. Right now they have them in Wichita playing Texas Tech, I believe.
Oh, there is? No, yeah, from yesterday. Ooh. Now
sending you-
you gave me something to do during the break.
Yeah.
All
They
right.
didn't
Well,
send you to Dayton. They ain't sending you to no Wichita.
I know.
And that's where you want to be, Dayton and Wichita. Oh, that's a
Why couldn't they?
Just to miss out on the nightlife of both places got to be enough to keep you up at night.
Providence is hosting first and second round games this year. Why didn't they send them there?
All right. Well, look, we'll be back in just a moment with our award-winning email segment.
If your alarm clock sounds like this, this is the show for you. Toucher and Hardy, the Sports Hub.
You know, I got an idea for a bit. The email bit. We should do the email bit. It's a great idea. Let's do the email bit.
Hey, we are Toucher and Hardy. If you want to email us, just go to 985thesportshub.com and find all that. When the trade deadline was happening at 3, I couldn't get TSN to stream on my computer, so I put on the NHL network. Oh, boy. Maybe invest another $15 in the product and try to. They had Boudreaux on, and they didn't have anything. They had no information about what was going on. They were just putting a tweet up from the guy that knew about from TSN that knew about the Marchand trade.
Yep.
And they just sat around like babbling about nothing while all this was going on. There was no idea of any returns, no idea of anything. So I ended up leaving the house and listening to the station.
Where was Billy Jaffe in the middle of all of this?
He wasn't there. And I mean, it's a real ghetto operation. Like TSN is like, they got 55 guys out there. They're all on their phones. They're all like little Adam Schefters, which is saying something. Well, they're all like big Adam Schefters.
I managed to get in. It was streaming for me because I was like you. I was watching. They had, I think, 7 people at a big desk.
Yeah.
7 at a big desk, and then 2 more off to the right at a smaller desk.
See, I saw them playing this Plinko game, and I thought, oh, they're just killing time. But then I realized I was watching old videos from TSN, so I got very confused. So what I ended up doing is I ended up walking the dog and listening to the station. And Felger and Maz had all the information.
Mm-hmm.
So they did better than the NHL network.
Yeah.
Which is really saying something. Because Felger and Maz are great, but they're not the NHL network.
Yeah, you don't have insiders working for them that should know better. Yes.
Like Felger and Maz were getting the information to me 1,000 times better than the NHL network was.
Well, they do have Jay Stu's phone. That's true.
It was the guy that we were friends with that was the Vancouver goalie that ended up playing for the Bruins for a minute.
Luongo? No, not Luongo.
No. Redheaded guy. He's from Boston. He was the goalie in Vancouver.
Redheaded.
Yeah.
Chris Draper.
Chris Draper did not play goal. He just banged everyone in Detroit. Him and McCarthy.
He was friends with a goalie.
We used to have him on. He was a fan of the show. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But,
Corey Schneider.
Corey Schneider, thank you.
Yeah.
It was Corey Schneider, who I like a lot, but they gave him nothing to say.
Yeah.
It was this anchor who's, Lord knows if he's a full-timer, and he's sitting there, and it's Corey Schneider, and it's Bruce Boudreaux, who's trying not to swear. That's the whole thing he's trying to do. And his face has almost engulfed itself. Oh. He's always had a big head, but now his face is like engulfed itself.
Okay.
All right.
I was glued to the radio on Friday. I was almost late for pickleball, listening to Felger and Maz breaking the Marchand news.
Yeah, the pickleball situation, I still haven't seen it at my club, but I took my kids there to eat on Sunday because I have a $400 minimum that's got to be reached by the end of the month. And so my son got 2 breakfasts.
There you go.
And there were cars there.
And there were.
But I couldn't figure out how to get there with a car, and my son was driving, so I couldn't see it.
Oh.
I was going to go in and investigate. But it seems to be quite a little scene.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
We just got an email from Mitch alerting me to something that just escaped me. What is today, other than Monday? What is the date?
3/10.
Which means tomorrow is?
3/11.
Too much 3/11 rejoin music. All right, this is from Mitchell.
Entire show.
This is from Mitchell, and this might take up the rest of the segment. Mitchell says, Joe in or out? Hey, maybe you can have Nick pull, which would be Ryan, pull. Nick is very busy with the YouTube and hopefully not reading all the comments. Hey, maybe you can have Nick pull up the in or out segment from Friday's show. Joe goes on about food as he usually does. It was pretty funny. Joe's show's great. Matt McCarthy was hanging around, and this is what happened on Joe's show, I believe, on Friday.
Welcome to Snacks with Mac.
So the Bruins game is going on, and so they got to sit around and wait for the Bruins game to end. And McCarthy comes in, and he's like, I got a big old sack. And when I'm done with it, I'm going to put in my head at a Red Sox game.
Welcome to Snacks with Mac. I want to play my new favorite game. I've never played this before, but I'm going to enjoy this.
It's called Jeez Louise, I'm pissed. What's McCarthy pissed at? You get one guess. The Red Sox, correct. Ding, ding. You win a ticket to crap.
Joe Murray, what's in the bag? What am I having for dinner?
It's not Jimmy John's. You love Jimmy John's.
I do.
Is it a lobster roll?
No.
Why would you guess a lobster roll? Why would he bring a lobster roll in? Out of all the food that you would bring into work, a lobster roll.
Well, is he just going to start guessing like all foods? Is it a French dip? Is it Waldorf salad? Is it minestrone?
A spinach quiche?
I mean, why guess lobster roll right off the bat?
Is it a lobster roll?
Is it lobster fumidor?
Baked Alaska.
Is it Clams Casino? No.
Clams Casino. I used to go to a place that had that. Oof.
Is it a lobster roll?
No.
Is it a tuna fish sandwich?
No.
How long does this go on? No kidding, it's going to take up the rest of the segment. He's just going to guess all foods.
Well, obviously there was a scent in the air that he was picking up, which he's not far off on.
Is it a tuna fish sandwich?
No.
No.
But there is fish involved.
Is there a fried clam in there?
No.
Again, who has had fried clams since they were on vacation somewhere in the in New England in the summer?
I guarantee Zolak has had them in the last week.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you even get fried clams?
At work.
Kelly's.
I don't know.
I guarantee you Joe probably has had them in the last week. He's probably had them at Kelly's or it's one other spot that he goes to.
Does he still go to Kelly's? Or is he like much more like into the indie scene?
I don't think he discriminates when it comes to that. I think.
And I think he understands what Kelly's is, and he doesn't crap all over it.
Whoa! I didn't say I got any problem with Kelly.
No, Joe.
No, I'm saying that I just wonder if Joe's like, like if you're into music and it's sometimes like it's too obvious, you got to go for like more of the indie band. I'm wondering if Kelly's is like.
I think the true North Shore beef snobs look down on Kelly's.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Scallops and bacon.
No.
Scallops and bacon. I mean, he couldn't be.
No.
No.
Not fried clams?
No.
Hey, you gotta go back to fried clams because now he's out of food. And you notice that fish to him is fried clams or scallops wrapped in bacon.
Well, lobster roll. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, once he said it was a fish.
Yeah. I don't think the words Chilean sea bass are going to be coming out of his mouth.
No. He's got a very limited knowledge of fish.
He's not going to come up with grilled salmon.
No. Well, he doesn't. As a matter of fact.
Not fried clams?
No.
Scallops.
You're going to be so disappointed. Joe, in here.
Is there a lettuce something in there?
Is salmon with a Caesar salad.
Oh! Oh!
Wow.
The disappointment on his face. The anger. A Caesar salad.
Who the hell gets a Caesar salad for dinner?
Yeah. I'm kind of maniac.
Oh!
I'm trying to be healthy. Look at this.
Trying to be healthy.
The disdain in Joe's voice.
Trying to be healthy. You could do maybe not a Caesar salad.
Look at that. Look at the lettuce in there. Look at the salmon, cooked medium. What? Look at that. You want some?
Can you spell that?
You want to smell it?
No, don't open it. Don't open it. No!
All right. You make a good point.
Smells!
You make a good point. You can't go Caesar. You got to go garden with balsamic.
Yep.
That's what you got to do if you're really looking out for your weight.
Matt, if you're really,
Yeah.
if you're going to just torture yourself with the salmon, you might as well, why are you going Caesar salad? You might as well get a garden salad with like a light dressing. With a light dressing, and then you could have a little something more delicious for your entree.
It's like Joe jumped off a cliff without a parachute. Jesus.
No!
Joe. Joe, the Undertaker hurt his leg. He's not going to be at WrestleMania.
No.
Joe, they're out of. We just got word from Calhoun. There's a shortage of duck sauce.
No!
Joe, Dan Livschetz has gotten in touch with his people in Rhode Island, and they're coming to get you.
No!
Joe, Sarge, sitting next to you on the plane going to WrestleMania, he wants to take his shoes off.
No, it smells!
Yeah. All right. Very good. Joe is not a fan of fish or Caesar salad. I wonder when the last time he had scallops wrapped in bacon where he wasn't at some kind of pre-wedding situation where they were walking around with ladders. All right, very good. When we come back, we will have the stack. Brad Marchand is meeting with the media down in Florida, and hopefully we can have a little bit of that for you. That's all coming up. Here are the headlines.
Essential Sports Hub headline presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
Patriots have made a trade this morning after signing a couple of players last night in advance of the beginning of the NFL's legal. finger on the pulse, Fred. Seldom right and never wrong.
Right here. Is that Dutcher or is that Hardy?
Kinda looks like a poodle. It's an effing poodle, dumbass.
The Sports Hub. We know what you're thinking. What could I possibly have missed from the show? It's time for The Stack on Dutcher and...
A whirlwind here the last few days. It's sad to leave a place that I look at as home. I have a lot of great memories in Boston, and at times there were incredible years there. But it's extremely exciting to be part of such an incredible group.
Okay. I guess we could have expected this. Probably more about the Panthers than the Bruins.
When I walked into the room the other day, I literally had flashbacks to back in the year that we won, and some of the groups that we've had over the year that I looked at as an incredible chemistry and incredible culture. When you walk in here and you see the way the guys interact and.
But regardless, there's a couple of his friends there. He obviously wanted to go there. He didn't want to sign the deal with the Bruins that they offered him, and they did right by him. So now he's going to, convalesce for the next month, and then he'll be able to play in the playoffs, and they have a chance of doing something. If they get Kachuk back and they have Marchand, they'll probably be a favorite. So good for Florida and good for Brad. I don't think Brad's coming back here, and I don't know if the Bruins want to do that. It's time to build a new identity. They have an opportunity in front of them now. We talked to Ryan Johnston. They have a lot of cap space. They have a lot of picks. They have a lot of maneuverability. You use some of those picks. You trade some of those picks. Not for rentals and not for old guys, but you trade some of those picks for good young players, and you see what you can do. And this rebuild might not take forever, or it shouldn't even be called a rebuild. This change, because Coyle, Carlo, and Marchand shouldn't be the difference of, if you can add good pieces, that shouldn't be a devastating blow to this team. That shouldn't be, they're not, Marchand at 37, which he would be next year, is not an irreplaceable, it's not something that you can, his legacy and all that here is irreplaceable, but talent-wise, that's not something that should be irreplaceable.
You have a guy. You guys brought up Casey Middlestat, and if you take a look, he's Charlie Coyle. Only he's 7 years younger than Charlie Coyle. He's making about the same amount of money, same kind of production. Third, second line guy.
Well, they obviously wanted Coyle for the playoffs because Coyle's a proven playoff performer.
But
but that's why
that's why you get back in return. You've just traded Charlie Coyle for Charlie Coyle.
Well, in my opinion,
it's not a big deal.
It seems to me, and I don't know because obviously I don't analyze hockey like these insiders do, but it seems to me as a layman that they won their trades and the Marchand thing was kind of out of their hands.
You got at least one first-round draft pick. Yeah, I bet you Marchand comes back. Florida's good enough to get through, and the rule is it is a first-round draft pick if Florida wins their first 2 rounds of the playoffs and Marchand plays in 50% of those games. I think that's certainly doable. So you got 2 first-round draft picks out of this trade deadline? Fantastic. And you got a young player, and who knows what this Toronto prospect does for you. But, okay, so Carlo's going to play for Toronto.
Yeah. And
you'll see him occasionally, but it's not like he's going to win the Maple Leafs games. I don't see a downside to this.
All right, so next year you have a first, 2 seconds, and a pick in every round. The year after you have 2 first, a second, and a pick in every round but the 5th. And the next year you have a first, 2 seconds, and it could end up being a first, a second, and then a first in 2028.
That extra first will be 2028.
You're right. So maybe you use the first-round pick this year, you trade a second-round pick, and you get a piece. Maybe,
and who knows what Florida looks like in 3 years. This is all good. All good news. It may suck. We wish we had Brad Marchand. I like Brad Marchand. You guys like Brad Marchand, but this is necessary. Good for Don Sweeney.
But having multiple second-round picks or first-round picks in the next 3 drafts gives you maneuverability. What if you package a 2 and a 1 and you go get someone and you still have picks in those rounds? You have a lot of flexibility right now, and you have the cap space to take people on. Because I'll tell you what, John, I don't want them taking 2 first-round picks next 2 years from now. I do not. Not this draft,
Sweeney's
but the next
drafting
draft.
has led, and I didn't know about Letourneau until you guys brought it up, but that doesn't scream success
If
either.
you don't know Letourneau, and we don't know, we'll tell you straight up we don't know.
BC's
he could
really
be the
good, and he can't find a spot on the team.
He's 6'7", 500 pounds,
Yeah.
but he is 6'7". He's obviously huge.
Yeah.
And he's played 30 some odd games, and he has 0 goals and 3 assists. And he's a forward.
That's a problem.
Because, they used to draft based on their ability to play both ways.
Yeah.
Stop doing that. Start drafting on people's ability to be electric, to be dynamic. Start doing that. Enough of the grinding.
Does he do anything really well? No, not one thing, but he's,
He understands the game. He's got a great feel for the game both ways.
You can see the ice.
Every foot of that rink is covered by him. Well, how about someone who's electric? Get Draisaitl. Get someone like that. Get a star. Lose some games here. Get into the lottery. Stop screwing around with these wins. They beat Tampa every time they play them now. Stop it.
That was out of nowhere. That's true.
Well, they were probably all pretty
Dead cat
keyed
bounce,
up.
right, Hardy? Dead cat bounce.
It's a thing. It's a real thing.
They were probably all keyed up,
Yep.
It was the opportunity of a lifetime. Well, look, a lot's going on. Free agency starts in earnest at noon. And just hope that it's not like a few years ago where there's a buzzer going off every minute that there's been a breaking news, because there's not a lot out there. But hopefully, they fill up some line needs on both sides and they can get that going. All right, that